hoping his alma mater, Valley College, doesn't lose their federal funding. Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get on the church. We got a mandate. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for telling a friend. Dean Delray back in studio. Dean's got a stand-up special out as we speak, 5836, available on YouTube, and it is named that because...
That's what said it was in my career.
How did you possibly keep track of all your sets?
I just, when I started, I was just like, I'll just write these down. I'll do comedy a couple weeks, and then later in life, when I'm writing a book or something, I'll be like, "This is when I did comedy." Mm-hmm. And then it bit me like a snake, and I just kept going, and I just kept writing them in the notes on the phone.
So, like, I'm trying to think. I would have no idea how many sets I did. Within 2,000, I probably couldn't narrow it down. But I don't think most comedians do. Do they? You may be in a minority here.
Yeah, I just did it. So this year, this is what it looks like, just to show you. So this year I'm at 110 already.
Uh-huh.
So you just write it down, the date, the time usually I went on, where it was,
Listen, it's commendable.
Yeah.
I would just never do it.
Yeah.
But is it OCDE or is it just pragmatic?
I think it was just... It started to turn into different things. It was kind of a work ethic thing. All right, I got on again. Mm-hmm. I put it down kind of like it was glory. Holy shit, I got another set. And then I started using it as like, okay, let's go back a year ago. I was here. Let's see when it was. Then I can go back and listen to the recording, what I did, so I don't really repeat stuff or whatever,
Smart. I never do that. But I always do. I come back to town and I go, what did I do here last time? Yeah. And then I have no idea because I didn't record it and I didn't write it down and I don't have it figured out. But I feel, and I don't know what your background is, but a lot of comedians are here because we're traditionally lazy and that we're not good students, and writing stuff down in order and keeping track of stuff is not really a strong point for most comedians. Now, there are a couple people who are like comedians and they're sort of like honor students, like Jimmy Kimmel's that kind of guy.
Right.
And when you take a sort of honor student and mix it with comedy, then you get hosting the Oscars 4 times.
Oh, man.
So you really do, you get next level because what you get is like a kind of punctuality and a responsibility and a sobriety that you would take in the corporate world, but now you're doing it with a bunch of junkies and flunkies and you go right to the top, But you don't strike me as an A student in high school. I take that in the spirit in which it was intended. So,
I hated school,
Yeah, I did too. So where did this studious stenographer part kick in?
It came from my mom. She had like insane work ethic, So she was a single mom, divorced, and, we were poor, government cheese, all that shit. And so she was really like, be on time, don't call in sick, do the job they hired you to do. And that was really where it came from. I wanted to, just be at the club on time. They could rely on me. That way they'd call me like somebody dropped out. You want to go on? And I'd be like, I'm there. And I was on a motorcycle. I did most of those spots on a motorcycle. So I could get places really quick, skip the traffic.
In L.A.?
In L.A., yeah, right.
What kind of bike did you have?
I had a Beamer GS 1200. Then I had a Harley Road Glide. Just baggers because I'd ride it all over California to do the spots.
Mm-hmm. And give me some good poor person government cheese talk. I love good poor people stories.
Yeah.
I love tales of the cheap.
Well, the funniest thing about it is they used to give you free lunch. And for a while, you would have to have this kind of a thing you showed. But
punch card.
They realized that was embarrassing to the students. So then they and they already knew we were the poor guy. You get up to the register at school for lunch. But the funny thing about it is they had this hot pastrami sandwich.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
It was up in NorCal. So
yeah.
hot pastrami sandwich, and that was gold to me. And I never had a pastrami sandwich. People would be like, you got to go to Cantor's or you got to go to Greenblatt's.
Yeah.
And I was like, you got to go to high school government sandwich.
No,
you know?
you're bringing up a good point because I was a free lunch program dude myself.
Right.
And we just had, it was funny. They just had lunch tickets.
Right.
We had some sort of universal, there was a monopoly on tickets. It was a big roll of red tickets that you pull off for about an inch and a half long. And when you'd go to the carnival, you'd get the ticket. When you went in the lunch line, it was like one ticket, you know? And then you hand them the ticket. And the hot dogs suck, and the hamburgers suck, and the pizza suck. But when I got to junior high, the pastrami sandwich was a big deal.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't fuck up that pastrami sandwich, or maybe you can't. But they fucked up everything else.
I'll tell you a funny story. A guy told me, hey, have you tried All About the Bread? It's on Melrose. It's a sandwich shop, and they make their own bread. I go, no. And he goes, oh, you got to go. It's great. So I eat there one day. And I go, holy shit, this is the free lunch pastrami sandwich. It had the same flavors. And I was like, oh, God, this is my spot.
So, nothing better than pastrami sandwich. But, all right, so poor guy growing up, lunch program.
Yeah. And not embarrassed either because all my friends were poor in the neighborhood. It was like fresh divorces happening in the 70s. Dads were splitting.
Yeah.
There was no money, and you actually got those food stamps that were like they looked like the tickets for Disneyland.
Yeah.
You know?
Pull them off. Yeah. Yeah, I remember the food stamp argument. My mom tried to buy cat food. They were explaining to her no cat food. And I'm like, what if we eat the cat food? You know?
Cigarettes was the one my mom would try to get.
Oh, really? See, my mom didn't smoke, but we had a stray cat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know, somebody should have worked a deal out. I think they do now, or probably sold those. People go in, buy a can of beans, come out, and trade them for some cigarettes or something.
Well, I think the gangster way would go if you went to the corner store, kind of bodega type of places. Oh, yeah. The guy would be like, all right, you give me $5 in those, and I'll give you the cigarettes. It's like so you're paying like, cigarettes back then were 75 cents or whatever, so you're paying $5, but you know, so he was making money.
It's so amazing that 10 minutes after the system is in place, the grift begins.
That's like with the counterfeit bills.
It's with everything.
The new one comes out, they're like, we already got that.
It's just human nature is there's a, COVID, there's a lockdown, then someone's going to give government payment to small businesses, and the grift is on. Like it just begins.
Listen, bud, I came up on a bunch of N95 masks immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I was in on the grift.
Yeah.
I've never been a good grifter because it takes a lot of energy, I feel like. Like the amount of effort my mom put into being poor, she could have just had a well-paying job. You know what I mean? It just took so much energy with the waiting in line everywhere, and the waiting for the stamps, and the waiting for the welfare, and the arguments about cat food and stuff like that. Like, you could have just taken a job.
They weren't paying women back then any money, so that's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, I was paper routing it.
You were paper routing it?
Oh, yeah. That was so fucking weird.
Paper route is a good base. It's a good pre-McDonald's base in terms of learning how to work.
Yeah,
you can't work at McDonald's when you're 12.
No.
But you show me someone who had a paper route from like age 10 to 15 and a half and then went to McDonald's, and I go, that fucker knows how to work.
Yeah, that was me, man. I called it the America Sweatshop.
Yeah.
Because you work all fucking month, and then they go, here's $3.90 or whatever. And you're like, are you out of your mind? Like, on Sunday, you're getting up, and then you're getting these crazy old men. I said to porch it, motherfucker.
I don't want to be a one-downer.
Yeah.
But I will go even lower than you.
Yeah.
I never had a paper route but I got sucked into many a friend's paper route.
Oh, yeah.
Because my fucking house didn't have any food in it. It was a piece of shit. My mom was depressed, so I would sleep over at my friend's house a lot. And I'd be there Saturday night eating up all their instant pudding.
Oh, I'm that way, too.
And all their food. I was in their pantry and everything.
Yeah.
And at some point, I turn around and they go, you know, it's time to pay the fiddler tomorrow morning. And I'd be like, I'll have another Pop-Tart. And they're like, but we're getting up at 5:30. And I'm like, where are we going? We're folding papers.
Yeah.
We're doing inserts. And then we're going on my route. And I never said, how about I just sleep in and have another Pop-Tart? I got fucking recruited. And then I would even take over dudes' routes where they'd go like, I'm not going to be here Sunday, but you got to take over my route. But I never got paid.
Yeah.
So I'm the only guy who's been on 15 different routes, but never got a penny. But I would see those guys try to collect.
Oh, it was crazy.
And the guy's arguing with them. The one got wet, so let's back out 50 cents. And it was like, oh, what a fucking job for a 12-year-old.
It's fucking nuts.
It should be illegal.
Oh,
I think it is now.
Yeah, and don't even fucking get me started on, at the end of the month, you got to go knock on these fuckers' doors and collect.
Yeah.
And they're hiding over like $2. And I see you in there.
I went with my friends even to collect.
Yeah.
Because there's never any food in my house. I didn't have anything to do. So I was always just like hanging out. They'd be like, we're going collecting.
The muscle.
And I'd just be standing there. My buddy Ray'd be arguing with the guy. And the old man in his bathrobe be arguing. Yeah, well, what they do is they go, 2 Wednesdays ago, you dropped the paper on the lawn. Then the sprinklers kicked on. The paper got ruined. So I'm not paying for that paper. It's like,
it is nuts.
Jesus Christ.
It was the first time I saw a guy with a tracheotomy. I knocked on the door. The guy, because I had just taken over a new paper route, and the guy opened the door and he looked at me.
Fuck you, kid. I'm not paying for the paper.
He just raised his finger like 1 minute. And I thought he was going to get the money, but he was going to get his fucking machine. Oh. And he came over, how can I help you? And I just I'd never seen anything like that. I ran. That guy got the paper free. He got the paper free for the rest of my paper route career.
All right, now you tell me, maybe I'm coming from white privilege here.
Right.
But I just don't feel like I would really haggle with a poor person and at this stage, but maybe even in modern times. And what I'm saying is you got some 50-year-old dude smoking in his bathrobe. He's a homeowner.
Yeah.
And then you got some poor fucking dude who's eating government cheese, single mom, welfare. He's 12 years old, and you're fucking throwing down over 50 cents. Like, I feel like now you just someone peel off 5 and go, yeah, take that, get yourself a pastrami sandwich or something. And it's not just being rich. It's like my family would argue and haggle, and it's like, you want to go, that guy's poor.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not paying you for driving time. It's like, the guy's got a pickup truck. It's a gas guzzler. Like, why do you hassle? It's not about having money, because I've had girlfriends when I was poor, and the girlfriend was poor, but if they were like a waitress and we'd eat out, they'd go, you got to leave them a good tip, man. They rely on tips. Like, it's a different mentality.
Yeah.
Maybe now, like, you just wouldn't, we like poor people better, or we decide they're noble or something, but they fucking hassled the shit. I went and did a job at a rich woman's house, and I bought a bunch of crown molding. I was a carpenter, blah, blah, blah. And we had a little dispute, and I had all the crown molding I'd already delivered to the house. And she's living up in the hills of the Palisades in like a $5 million house, and she's rich. And she's like middle-aged. And at some point, I just said to her, look, we've had our disagreements. She was a cunt. And we're going our separate ways, but like, I fronted you $300 for the crown molding, and that's a lot of money to me because I'm poor.
Yeah.
And I just would respectfully hope that you reimburse me the $300. She's like, fuck off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck? I got a beat up Datsun pickup truck in the driveway. But I feel like now it's different. I don't think there'd be this much abuse of the poor. Or am I wrong?
I mean, I look at it the other way, too, where you get these fuckers that come over and you go, hey, I want to get this, bathtub fixed. And then you front them money and then they're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
So then they disappear, and you're calling him for months going, hey, dude, I need this job finished.
Right.
And they're like, oh, man, and I'll get over there. And then they just, they put it off and off to where you become furious. So,
But do you think in modern times, if the 12-year-old version of you showed up to the house in the San Fernando Valley to get paid your $7, that homeowner Dawson over there would be fucking trying to Jew you down, as the guys on the job site say? Like we're haggling with you? Or would you just peel off $10 and go, yeah, there you go, there's a tip?
I don't know. I see videos all day of these, the Karen. And so I think it's
the
still
Karen.
Yeah, I think it's still out there. For sure.
But also, they didn't look at you as a kid. They just looked at you as someone who showed up to get money,
That
right?
was wild, man.
Yeah.
You're literally on your BMX bike.
I know. We treat kids at least like kids now, right?
And then you're like, your hands are black from ink. You got like ink on your face, and you're huffing in like paper dust as you're folding those things.
Putting those inserts in.
Oh, the inserts. You got them all lined up, and you're like, okay. And then the rubber band, and then the paper place would charge you for the rubber bands.
I don't think kids, as best I could tell, because I was thinking about this the other day, if newspapers are delivered at all, they're done by middle-aged Guatemalan women in pickup trucks at like 5 in the morning.
Right.
And the reason I know this is, A, I've never seen a kid riding a bike throwing a newspaper. Never anymore. But remember, you can find the story, Dawson. It was pretty funny. There was that LAPD cop who went rogue.
Chris Dorner.
Chris Dorner, who's a dear friend of Mayhem Miller's.
Yeah. That guy, he did everything right, and they still messed him up. He just went on a Rambo-style annihilation of everyone in Los Angeles, put the whole city on lockdown for a minute, got 2 Guatemalan ladies shot by the LAPD.
Oh, what do we need Dawson for? That was about 6 years ago or something.
I remember it clearly.
Chris Dorner, who was a giant black man. When was it?
2013.
Oh, so it's been 12 years. Mm-hmm. Chris Dorner is a giant black former LAPD guy. Just a big mountain of a black man. And the reason I'm stressing that is because he was driving a pickup truck, and LAPD was freaked out because he was on a rampage and he was coming out for vengeance for them and blah, blah, blah.
Well, they fired him or something?
Oh, yeah. And he had filed complaints that they were doing stuff wrong. Nobody listened to him. And instead of keep going through the right channels, he went through the right channel.
He picked up a gun. Yeah. So, but this is funny. Funny, haha. But
I know you can't say funny, but it's dark.
But it's nuts.
We're dark over
So
here.
somebody was like, "This guy's driving a '97 Tacoma pickup truck that's gray, or whatever it was." Yeah. And then at some point, somebody went, "Hey, there's a Tacoma pickup truck that's gray and it's on this street." And LAPD was like, "All right." Oh. And they rolled on it and they just started unloading on the back.
No license plate check?
They lost two clips.
They picked, it was a different make and a different color pickup truck. And they just started shooting at it. Right?
Wow, look at that.
Now, they put like 123 bullets into a pickup truck.
Yeah. Wow.
And it didn't turn out to be one giant black man in it. It was 2 miniature Guatemalan women who were in it, who were delivering newspapers at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Which is one of these things where I want to tell everyone from Black Lives Matter, this shit happens all the time to different groups all the time. You just don't hear about it. Because if there's just 2 black people in this truck, people would have been going nuts. We'd have burned the city to the ground. Now, here's the funny part. They missed both chicks.
Wow.
Even though they were firing at the headrest.
Yeah.
Yeah, God loves drunks and newspapers.
Did they die? Then how'd they die?
They didn't die.
Oh, wow.
They're fine.
Wow, God was on with them.
They got a little bit of a lawsuit in there.
Oh, excellent. No more paper route.
This shit was divine
Fuck
intervention.
that paper route.
Nobody got fired. It was like no one cared because it was like, look, it's 2 poor Mexican ladies out doing a paper route in the morning. Does anyone give a fuck? Who represents them?
Yeah.
Does Jesse Jackson give a fuck? Answer, no. So who cares? And you never really hear about it. Except for evidently, Mayhem over here is an expert on it.
And later on, they burned the cabin that he was hiding out in Big Bear to the ground.
Yeah, they weren't
I
fucking
don't know
around.
how I didn't hear about this.
It's a
but
crazy story.
I must have been, on the road or something.
Well, they were on the road too, but they were getting shot at. But the thing that was crazy about it is you're looking for one giant black man,
right?
And you fire on two miniature Hispanic women who are in the wrong model color pickup truck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you have fucked things up any more than that?
Yeah. I mean, we hear about that every day.
But you know what? I said this at the time, and I mean it. They bought them a new pickup truck.
Wow.
But you know what I would have said? I would have said, no thanks, I'm keeping this pickup truck.
Oh, yeah.
Because the thing ran fine. It's just got a bunch of holes in the tailgate. You know?
It probably looked pretty cool. You know?
You're never getting another speeding ticket as long as you live. Because when you get pulled over, you're like...
You know who I am,
yeah,
right?
You go, no, you just start off, they go, you're doing 80 and a 65. And I go, oh, would you say that's dangerous, officer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty dangerous out there. You know what else is dangerous?
Yeah.
17 of your buddies unloading a clip in the fucking back of my niece's head.
Yeah.
Okay, you want to count the bullet holes? Oh, don't worry, I've done it. 123.
Yeah.
Some of those may be from your gun.
Yeah.
So anyway, keep talking to me about safety while you write me this ticket. And the guy would have just went, sorry, man. And he just walked away. You never get another ticket.
Yeah.
You wouldn't get a parking ticket. You wouldn't get a speeding violation. You do whatever you wanted in that truck. And by the way, that's a Toyota. The engine's fine. Tranny's fine. It's not like they shot up the rear end. It's just a bunch of cosmetic stuff.
Engine block's fine.
Yeah.
Truck runs fine.
Radiator, good.
They probably confiscated that and they use it for undercover downtown. You ever seen that? There's undercover cops and they'll be like in a 81 Trans Am.
Oh, are you talking about bait cars?
No, I seen a bait car.
Not bait
for sure.
cars. There's actual cops undercover that use these old cars out of the tow yard.
Oh, I see.
And they're, they've been impounded. So you're like walking around downtown and you'll just see two dudes that look like a Beastie Boys sabotage video with the mustache. Like that's still the undercover look, a mustache.
Yeah.
You're like, that's a cop for sure.
We were way too impressed with that video when it came out.
Oh, I love it.
I know too, but it's just 23-year-old guy with a fake mustache jumping over a roof parapet and running at a camera. It's like, that wasn't high art.
Well, it was a spin on Kojak and Beretta.
I get it. It was fun, but we were too impressed with it. That's all I'm saying. At the time. But if you look at it now, you're kind of...
It doesn't deserve its Video Music Award.
I don't know, man.
You don't know.
I fucking love that because those guys, I mean, their videos were just so fucking good,
Yeah, in a
comedic way, that thing's a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you watch it now, I don't think you're going to think it's a masterpiece.
Kids now don't even know what Beretta was. So, or
No,
Kojak.
out of context. I'm saying it's still just, the production value wasn't, look. What I'm saying is, like, a lot of those MTV videos from back in the day were like Journey would just be standing on a dock playing air guitar. And a chick that was like a 5.5 would come walking by and they'd be like, and they're like, that's our video. And you're like...
With the moose knuckle.
Like a big ass.
Tight,
and they're kind of like...
pants down the dude.
It's not the great, ZZ Top had a cool car and the guys would point and stuff. But if you look at it now, you wouldn't be overly impressed with it. Is all I'm saying.
Low grade YouTube now.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about, there's a funny clip. We talk about term limits and look, if you're up for the job, you're up for the job. But someone sent me a tweet of Chuck Grassley, who's an old senator, I guess, and was trying to do a town hall-y thing. Where's he represent? What is Chuck Grassley? He's a senator he's trying to do a town hall, and he's 91 years old.
Yeah.
And his constituency's yelling at him the whole time, and it bordered on senior abuse to me, but like, my dad died a few months ago. He was like 92 and a half. He's fucking old at 91. Like, you sit down and he's like, your sister, Lauren. Yeah, right. Lauren, like he's 91.
Right.
Like, it's not firing. Like, I don't know. Commercial airline pilot, they cut you off at 66. Like, they go, sorry, man. And you go, hey, listen, I ran a half marathon last year. It's like, sorry.
Yeah.
You're this age. Sorry.
Mick Jagger, 81, touring. Come on, let me fly.
Yeah, I agree, but listen to Chuck. It's funny. He's from Iowa.
Judges are, if the president is upholding the Constitution,
He's defined the
you're on the
Constitution.
Judiciary Committee.
Trump don't care.
If I get an order to pay a ticket for $1,200 and I just say no, does that stand up? Because he's got an order from the Supreme Court and he's just said no.
Yeah. He just said, screw it.
I'll be able to answer your question.
You ignored my letter.
You ignored my. It's 91.
For El Salvador is an independent country. The president.
Speak up, please. We can't hear you.
The president. Of
He's
that
gonna get hit with a
country,
folding chair and die.
Wow.
U.S. Supreme Court.
Trump wanted to bring him back.
Purse would kill that guy, I think.
If you pause this for 1 minute and look at the guy in the red hat, he's definitely from the Beastie Boys video, but he's older now.
Yeah, he's older
He's got
now.
the mustache and the mullet.
Good
Yeah.
catch there.
There he is right there
There's
undercover.
Waldo.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
All right. I don't know. Do we cut it off? All right. Look. All right. I'm not going to assign an age to it.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have like an aptitude test. Like we're gonna have a little punt, pass, and kick competition. Like if you're having difficulty, we got to get you out of there.
We need some volume on the guy, too. He's just mumbling.
You got to mic him up. Yeah. And the people are like angry. And also, I like when people go, I sent you a letter and you didn't respond. It's like, yeah, I sent Superman a letter when I was 9 and he didn't get back to me. And then I sent Santa one when I was 9. A letter.
2025. I sent you a letter.
Hold on, let me get my quill out.
Fucking
Martha, cancel my afternoon's schedule. I got to return this taxpayer's letter.
If I'm 91, man, I want to fucking just sit on the couch and do some Donata.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just chill. These guys are like, I got to go down there and argue.
And everyone's pissed off.
Oh, God.
I mean, I'm not. Also, this is what Zoom is for.
Yeah.
I'm not going standing in amongst a bunch of angry people and getting yelled at about letters, and then somebody yells like, "Speak up!" And you know it's funny too because the person yelled "Speak up" was only 76, so like a spring chicken. You know, like, hey pops, come on, before my skateboard gets stolen, I left it out in the
Hearing
curb.
aid ain't fucking working. You know, God damn it. That was crazy because he was literally just going.
He's 91.
Yeah.
Can we at least say once you make it to 90,
Yeah.
we're turning the page?
Yep.
That's
I
up.
was thinking he seemed pretty strong for 91, though. For
Oh,
91.
it's good. It's like saying, listen, Tyson could beat any other 57-year-old's ass. Right, but could he beat a 31-year-old's ass? And I don't want guys who are good for their age. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
that's a classic.
You're right.
I feel that way with the SI swimsuit edition. Like, she looks good for 73. It's like, get a 22-year-old and put her in a fucking two-piece, would you please?
You don't want any granny?
No, I don't want any. Like, every once in a while, you'll drive around and you'll go like, Jesus Christ, that Chevy Vega's pretty cherry. You know,
Chevy Vega.
It's still a Chevy Vega. Yeah, it's cherry, but it's still I want a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. All right. I got something else to get into. I don't know what you guys think about this, and I don't want to be morose, but take the show down. But I feel like you guys are qualified to get into some heavy shit. But I'm also curious if my head on it is different than yours. So I told you my friend, actor Nicky Katt, died a couple of days back. He was done all these different movies, a very long who's who of movies. Interesting, eccentric guy, fun guy. Used to hang out with him at the track and come back to the Airbnb and have some drinks and watch some old movies. Old Hollywood aficionado, and just a character. Brought gifts for everyone all the time. Interesting guy. But anyway, I was very upset to find out that he took his own life on Saturday. And then, as you sort of dig deeper into it, it's like, well, he hanged himself, and you're like, I'm always like, oh, God damn it. And then he didn't leave a note. And I'm like, I don't know why not leaving a note says something more depressing to me, as if it could get any more depressing. But no note, and I no note just means I don't have anybody, anything, nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I was doing that, I'd have to write both my kids a note.
Yeah.
You know, this doesn't have anything to do with you. That'd be for the boy. For the girl, it'd be like, this has something to do with you, but don't blame yourself. You know, I'm being honest. You know, it's 20% max, maybe 25, but mostly your mom. But anyway, let's move forward.
Yeah.
But just punching out zero note feels
family?
more depressing.
Did he have family?
He had, we can look it up. His mom, who was sort of his whole world, died a couple years earlier, and I think that was like a lot of this. And I don't think he had siblings, and I don't think he had, he didn't have kids, is the best of my knowledge. He was divorced, but I don't know if he had kids. I don't think.
No note means impulsive, Ace.
Does it mean impulsive?
That means he maybe had a couple of those, and then he was like, all right, I don't care, I'm doing it. You know, you make terrible decisions.
Yeah.
Impulsivity is a part of the, depression. I told you I work with emerging veterans and players, and, suicide prevention is a big thing with the teams. Like, you have to make sure to reach out to everybody that you know that could go into a dark place, and sometimes you can't catch everyone.
Right.
So no note means impulse.
I think
that makes sense. He had a sister,
Look,
by the way.
I've been in dark places, bud, and an impulsive decision, can end your whole thing. And people I've met, the stories of people who have survived, they say they regret it as soon as they jumped the bridge or shot and missed or hung themselves and somehow survived. Like, it's happened, and people
the Golden Gate
regret
Bridge
it.
jumpers.
Yeah, they always regret it at the moment that the decision is made.
I get that, but, and I've seen the doc and the handful of guys that survived. But the Golden Gate Bridge jumper versus the shoot themselves in the head or hang themselves is possibly a chemical thing. Like, when you jump off of something for that fleeting moment, you're not on safety anymore. Every fiber in your being wants to be back on the bridge, just like you never forget to breathe, no matter how you get drunk, you pass out, you fall asleep, but your body goes, I want back on that bridge. So I don't know if it's that or that, but shooting is different.
Yeah.
I think also that, I lost my mom a couple years ago, and there's some waves of mad depression will hit you out of nowhere.
I've said a million times, they go, the number one job that commit suicide are cops. And I'm like, because they got a suicide machine on their hip.
It's true.
Right.
And I go, if I had a gun strapped to me, I would have killed myself 9 times before my 30th birthday. I would have never made it. Well, I don't even know if that's possible. But no, if I had a gun strapped to me, I think I would have killed myself by 23.
Yeah.
Opportunity.
Because
it's just there.
Those mad waves real quick, and you're like, oh, man. But, I mean, it's... And also, though, hanging is not quick. You got to get it all set up.
Pretty brave. I'll say that. That was brave.
You got a YouTube or whatever, figure out how to do... I mean, it's... that is the brutalest way to go, I think.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I've always said I don't understand it. In a world where most people can't change a spare tire, that they could rig that and that it would work. You know what I mean? Is kind of nuts. So I just had the thought of no note, and it made me a little bit sadder. Yeah. But now I'm now not quite as sad, because you're right. It says impulse buy.
Yeah,
which still makes me sad. But all right, so I just want to run that past you guys, because I was just curious, sadder, no note or long note?
Yeah, I don't know. You put a note out, and then maybe in your mind you're like, now I'm bringing them into this darkness. And, where if they go and there's no note, maybe you can just kind of cruise, okay.
Here's a third note sadness possibility. My mom died of natural causes, but she did write me a note and my sister a note, which was a page long, but she combined me and my sister on one page.
Oh, so you both read it.
Yeah.
Like, I liked you more.
I was like, I remember when you got your period. And I was like, okay, that wasn't for me.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I'm trying to, it's interesting.
Well,
like,
she had all the time in the world. She was just in bed, you know what I mean? Could have got 2 separate notes, you know what I mean?
She's like, fuck it. I'm old. One note. It's weird because I'm trying to figure out how to talk about my mom on stage right now, and boy, is it
Don't do it.
It's tough, right?
Don't do it.
I know.
I got 1,000 good sad mom jokes, and all the audience does is go,
I love them, though. Hit me with another one.
I got one.
all right, hit me. Let's do a little back and forth dueling sad mom jokes.
This is my first one. So she passed away, and I'm in her house, and I'm cleaning it up, and I come across her wallet, and there's money in there. And I'm like, well, she's not going to really need this anymore.
Right.
So that's the intro to the joke.
Yeah.
And then I try to do other ones, and it's like, no, we gave you one.
They're sensitive.
I got like 5 of them.
Yeah.
Do you have a second one?
Yeah. No.
All right, I'll hit one.
Go.
I'll hit one.
Okay.
This one gets a laugh because my mom's not dead yet.
Oh.
I said I like COVID because I didn't like visiting my mom, and my mom's old and she votes blue and she's a hypochondriac. So even though she's in the neighborhood, I told her I can't come visit you because I love you too much. And I was this close to convincing her that COVID could be spread over the phone.
That's a pretty good one.
And then I go, but she died on me. And everyone goes, oh. All right, Dean, your turn. I'll give you a piece of paper if you want to jot down a note.
No.
Okay.
So as I was cleaning up her house, I realized I had to sell her PT Cruiser.
Was it purple?
It's like a gay giant.
It was dark blue. It was almost the purple one.
Oh, Jesus
She wanted
Christ.
the purple, but they didn't
my
have
God.
it. I know. And so I had to, drive it to the mechanics to get a smog, and I just said, I can't drive this. So I just sold it with no smog for $1,000 less because I didn't want to be seen in that.
It's the worst.
Oh.
Okay. Here's another one.
Yeah.
This is true. My mom died, and like 3 weeks went by, and my family's untraditional. Like we don't have funerals, and we don't do tombstones or mausoleums. I don't know. She's gone, but I don't know where she is or what happened. There's no burial ceremony, coffin, urn, nothing. So I said to my stepdad, I go, what happened to Mom? Like, where is she? And he said, oh, she donated her body to UCLA Medical. And I said, what were they studying? Moms that never loved their sons? And the audience goes, All right, your turn.
I'm out.
You're out?
I'm out for now, man, because it's like...
I'll give you 2 more because I can't do them on stage because they don't like it.
All right. First of all, how long has it been since your mom passed?
Jesus, 2.5 years?
Yeah, so I'm right there too. But it's still like, I put my mom at the end of the special, and so we're editing the special for like 3 weeks, and every time I saw her, I'd just be like, oh, fuck. Like it was brutal.
Yeah.
It's still there. You know? And I realized she's not going to see this special. And then I thought the YouTube commenters are like, thank God it would have killed her. The haters.
Well, I can rest in peace because I got a special coming out in a few weeks, and even if my mom was alive, she wouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
She wasn't a fan.
Oh.
But
I'm sure once you went full red on her. God damn it, Mom.
No, she was a fan when I was a kid. But
Gotcha.
I did another one where I was with Dennis Prager, and we're doing some bits, conservative radio guy, and he knows my mom's not a fan of mine. And we're in front of a crowd in Arizona. And he said, when I wrote my first book, and he was like 20, and they put a big cardboard cutout of him for the signing, full size, and he said, my mom got that cardboard cutout. She took it home. She put it right in the entry hall, so it could be a big picture of me in the entry hall of her home. And then he laughed, and he said, your mom ever put a big picture of you in her house? And I said, my mom doesn't have a picture of me in her head. And then the audience goes, oh.
You know what I was thinking of that is like that Clint Eastwood, Magnum Force when they're shooting the targets. Your mom used yours as a target down at the shooting
she brought
range.
it down to the range.
You just
Yeah, if she ever fired a gun. I said, the other one doesn't work either. So I go, my mom is, I wouldn't call her a helicopter pilot. Like, she didn't really pay attention to us or hover around too much. She wasn't a helicopter pilot, unless you're talking about the last one out of Saigon. Then everyone just goes, oh.
Yeah.
And I go, all right, fuck, I'm not going to do that anymore.
It's tough, man. Stanhope opened his special with 10 minutes about his mom dying of cancer. And you're going like, oh my God, this is dark as fuck. And then it has this giant payoff. And you're like, that could be the best,
He's a gem. Yeah.
Dark joke of all time, because it's really a credit card fraud joke at the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's like, it turns out my mom bought 7 plasma screens from Good Guys and a couple of, whatever
Right.
he's saying that, he used.
Your mom had a PT Cruiser?
Yeah.
That suggests something.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what.
Well, my mom had bad car taste, which was weird because she had good taste in music and art, but her cars were awful.
Well, a PT Cruiser is a cool car if you're 9.
Yeah.
But not as an adult.
Well, she had the PT Cruiser, and then she had that Scion X that looks like the lunchbox.
Yes.
The square box. That was her last car, really, was the last car.
She liked kitschy, cartoonish
It was
trucks,
weird because it looked like a
basically.
toaster.
Yeah.
I know.
And, I drove that around for a couple weeks around Florida,
Yeah.
And you're
Cool.
you're kind of like, this thing is fucking weird. And it was just loaded with dog hair,
That's gerbil hair, isn't it? All gerbils that drive that car.
Oh, the commercial?
Yeah, right.
I'm always curious about, like, when Pontiac came out with the Aztec minivan and people bought it new. I'm like,
Plymouth Prowler's the one that fucking
Prowler's the worst.
There's some Prowlers around my mom's retirement community. The guy gets in it like, I got a fucking hot rod.
I'm on the prowl.
It's the darkest.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show there's a lid for every pot.
Yep, yeah. My mom was the best, man. Everything but her car choice.
Really?
Yeah, I fucking love this woman. I miss her so bad.
I feel bad for you.
Yeah, it was brutal, man. It's just, I was on tour and I got a call from the neighbor. Your mom had a small heart attack. And I was like, oh, fuck, I just got on a midnight flight. I was in San Diego headline and I flew out there and I was there 6 weeks and I lost her. It was.
I love you, Mom. Get better from COVID right now. I love you, Mom.
It's just awful.
Yeah, I don't miss my mom at all.
Yeah, well, I don't miss my dad.
Oh, okay.
I don't miss my dad at all.
That's
so,
good.
There's always one.
Yeah. Yeah. I can maybe have 2. But, all right, should we take a break? Should we do some news? You hang around, Dean?
Yeah, man.
All right, we'll do that right after this. There are many things in life we just never get around to. Taking up that hobby, cleaning out the garage, the little things that make a huge difference in our lives. Yet, there's one thing that most of us have probably been neglecting that can really have a huge impact on your family's future. That's life insurance. And with SelectQuote, getting covered with the right policy for you is easier and more affordable than you may think. If you have high blood pressure, no problem. If you have diabetes, that's fine too. Even if you have heart disease, SelectQuote partners with carriers that can cover those conditions and others. Head to SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com. And a licensed insurance agent will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Am I right, Dawson?
SelectQuote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at SelectQuote.com/Carolla. Go to SelectQuote.com/Carolla today to get started. That's SelectQuote.com/Carolla.
Oh, O'Reilly Auto Parts. Woo! Want to keep that car on the road? I bet you do. How about you use O'Reilly? O'Reilly Auto Parts offers friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. I've been using these guys my whole adult life. They've been around, and I've always worked on cars. And I used to use them out of necessity because, it wasn't a hobby. I had to keep my car on the road. Didn't have much money back then. I should say truck. Now I do it as a hobby. So whether you're a car aficionado or an auto novice, you'll find the employees at O'Reilly Auto Parts are knowledgeable, helpful, and best of all, they are friendly. Stop by the O'Reilly Auto Parts today, or you can visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com. That is O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam. Put that /Adam in there. O'ReillyAuto.com/Adam.
I travel. I've been all over America this year. It's fucking hostile out there. I told this one guy I was from California. He's like, you libretard. Just out there sucking each other's dicks. And I'm like, yeah, in the sunshine.
Dean Delray is on the Adam Carolla Show.
Dean special out as we speak, 5836 on YouTube. First special, so check that out. It's free. What's the length of it?
40 minutes.
Oh, good.
Perfect.
Bite size. Perfect.
Yeah.
Produced by Bill Burr. And how's Bill doing? Bill's out on Broadway now?
I'll tell you what, man. I just was there a week doing press for the special and went and saw him do Glenn Ross. He's doing the role of Moss. And I actually kind of teared up in the crowd because I'm
Really?
like, there's my fucking guy. And he's doing Broadway. It is nuts to see it, with Culkin and Bob Odenkirk and the dude, Michael McKean, Lenny from Lenny.
Michael McKean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably likes Spinal Tap better as a reference, but go ahead.
Well, it's about, what was weird was I was backstage talking to these guys, and I had no idea that he was the Spinal Tap, and they got the new one coming out.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, fuck, because he didn't have the wig on or nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
He looks way different than, I haven't seen the guy in years except for a wig or as Lenny,
Yeah, Lenny and Squiggy. All right, you got news?
Got some news. First up, embattled New York Attorney General Letitia James ducked reporters outside her Brooklyn home Wednesday, refusing to answer questions about her simmering mortgage fraud scandal.
Yeah, this is a problem for her because she brought the same charges against Trump and then kept saying no one is above the law.
Yes.
And they were kind of chicken shit charges with Trump. But if you keep saying no one's above the law and you do the exact same ones against Trump, now you're fucked.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
She allegedly falsified records to get sweetheart home loans for Virginia property she claimed as her principal residence while she was still serving in New York as a state prosecutor. So she moved some stuff around. I don't know. I think that what you said at the top of the show, how once the system's in place, people immediately start grifting.
You have to really figure out what is a grift. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where they go, these fat cats, they got to pay their fair share. It's like I pay millions of dollars in taxes, so I'm looking for ways to pay less in taxes, but I still pay millions of dollars in taxes. But yes, I leased my car and I called it a company car so I could write off the mileage. Yeah. But am I driving it to work and back only? No. Sometimes I go out to eat in it. And yes, sometimes I go out to eat and I'm with Kimmel, but we don't talk about business, but I still claim it as a business. But is it a grift when you're trying to keep more of your money? I would argue it's a grift if I'm trying to take your money. If I'm just trying to keep a slightly higher percentage of my own money, then it's not. And this is all anyone does all day, every day. And it's a system that is set up that attracts that. And as we've learned, nobody has the moral fortitude to completely look past the grift. I mean, they do this thing where they go, I remember coming up, they were like, my accountant was like, if Jimmy puts 50 grand into your kid's college fund, he can do it tax-free. And then you could put 50 grand into his kid's college fund and that would be tax-free or whatever it was. And I go, well, is that legal? And they go, yeah. And I go, okay, then do it. You know what I mean? Because I'm already fucking paying enough. Like, this thing, we're all caught in some weird malaise of like, what kind of grift? Everyone, if you can get a couple of points shaved from your mortgage or loan or a little better deal, or you say this, you call your office, your fucking room that you watch YouPorn in and eat pastrami sandwiches while watching YouPorn, while beating up. That's my work office, dude. I got to ride off that futon. That's all we do.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but when you then accuse other people of doing it, be prepared.
Yeah. So she's jammed up. Yeah, it could lead to criminal charges.
Well, because nobody who is successful doesn't have instances of this somewhere. Sometimes, and oftentimes, they're unaware of it.
Yeah.
Because they have accountants that are doing stuff, claiming stuff, filling out the paperwork, so on and so forth. But she said no one was above the law. So now she's fucked.
Yeah. Yes. No plausible deniability.
So they'll fucking throw the book at her because that was her plan with Trump.
And I agree with everything you said. The other thing about this situation is this is the perfect example of accuse your enemy of that which you are guilty of.
Well, there's a lot of that going on these days. So good. Throw the book at... Well, she could throw the book at herself, I guess. Self-inflicted book.
All right. Liberal outlets say that dogs are actually bad for the environment. Mother Jones reposts Guardian report about dogs being environmental villains.
We don't, we focus a lot on cows farting, but we leave St. Bernards out of the mix. I would say dogs do their fair share of blasting off, too.
Oh, those big fuckers, man. Like in New York, there's people that have the big St. Bernards and those Great Danes and everything.
Mastiffs, yeah.
Yeah, those things are farting.
Well, look, how could it not? We take animals, we slaughter them, we feed them to these guys. They go outside, they take a dump, they come back inside, they fart. Of course. I mean, by the way,
don't forget the plastic bag.
Everything is bad for the environment.
Microplastic.
All of us are bad for the environment. Every human
is bad.
Yes, everything is bad for the environment.
Yeah.
Everything we do, everything we want, every bit of air conditioning, every bit of transportation, the bitches who just went in orbit a week ago, all bad for the environment. Yeah. The costumes that were made, bad for the environment.
Tires.
The fucking Gatorade they drank on the way up was bad for the environment. Everything's bad for the environment.
Well,
everything.
This study was not so much about the farts as so much as the dogs decimating penguin populations in Tasmania, any kind of flea or tick medicine that gets
penguin
washed
populations.
off. Yeah, because this is an Australian review. It showed that they destroyed the island of Tasmania. The penguin population decreased. They kill.
I'm going to go out and say this.
Invertebrates because of the flea and tick medication.
I'm going to say this.
Into the water.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We love koala bears. Yeah. We love panda bears.
Yeah.
And we love penguins.
Yep.
But we don't need them.
Oh.
We don't need them. I love them. We don't need them. They're kind of like hot chicks. Like you love them, but you don't really need them.
I need them.
You think you need them. When's the last time a penguin fucking helped you out?
Oh, man. Just looking at them, man.
I'll show you a picture of a penguin and you'll be fine. Yeah. We don't need them anymore.
When you see them, though, they're like, instead of taking antidepressants, you're like, oh, fuck yeah, penguin.
But we got enough footage of penguins to keep you off the pharmaceuticals. I'm just saying we don't need them.
Well, I'd rather have them than those fucking Australian snakes. They got like 13 of the most deadly snakes out there.
But someone who knew more, like someone who knew what they were talking about would say, without those snakes, the rat population would be out of control.
Always say that.
But no one says without penguins. Yeah. Without penguins, we'd be missing a couple premises for movies. That's about it. They're just premises for movies that come along every 6 years.
Apex cuteness.
Yeah, they're apex cuteness. Pandas, we don't need. Koalas may do something. Pandas just sit.
Pandas are the best.
But they don't do anything.
Yeah, well, when you see a fucking panda, they're super rare. There's not enough for them to be damaging anything.
I would argue there's not enough for them to be doing anything either.
There's like 20 pandas in the world.
Dogs do some good, though. You may not like them, but they sniff out. They're going to sniff out cancer and stuff like that now. Cop military dogs, sniffing out landmines and stuff like that. They do something.
I love dogs.
Yeah, but
gotta have them.
They also point out in the study that the canine's carbon footprint is as big as the landmass of the United Kingdom because so many facilities are involved with making dog food and dog chow and dog products that it's just a big tax on the environment.
All right, but here's what I'm going to say to all these people with the environment. Mm-hmm. Whether you're going after cows or dogs, steak and ribs, dogs, man's best friend, or V8s, you got to pick shit we don't like.
Yeah.
You picking shit we do like?
No
Good
way.
luck with the ribs and the V8.
Exactly.
No way. No way.
We like it.
This study showed up because of the backlash.
I like
People
my
are
dog.
going bananas.
I like my dog. Do I like ribs or like American Muscle? Like more? I don't know. It's a toss up. You got to pick shit like homework.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, you got to pick
AIDS or something. You got to pick something I don't like.
Yeah, like
penguins.
That fucking rocket that went to sky. Last week, a couple days ago. Get rid of that.
Pick up something I'm not into.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Right.
you're not going to be fucking around.
You're not going to sell this on America. We're too into it.
Yeah, they're constantly just finding something so they can have their own comfort. They're like, the AC could be, illegal, and they're like, get rid of the dogs.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Here's a quote. Is there any enjoyable part of life these insufferable killjoys won't attack? Said the Young Turks host, Anna Kasparian.
Yeah. Well, she's right. They can't go after the good stuff. Go after shit we don't really care about.
Yeah.
Does he say it's from Australia?
Yep.
Yeah, that was the study.
Okay. I've tried Vegemite. It fucking sucks ass.
It tastes like when you put an old copper penny in your mouth?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's not a sandwich? This is a sandwich.
Okay. Go after Big Vegemite. Let's talk about their footprint.
Their factory.
Their factory.
It's gotta
Shut
be
it down.
insane.
Shut it down.
Spewing out just pollution.
Oh, the gases, the footprint, the
Fuck
carbon.
that.
Get rid of it. Get rid of Big Vegemite. Don't need it. Don't want it.
Yeah.
Doesn't impact me.
Disgusting.
I will give you guys Vegemite and penguins.
No.
Cover those penguins with Vegemite.
Oh my God. I did a guy's podcast once where you tried Vegemite, like the hot wings dudes.
Yeah.
And then I just took one bite and I go, yeah, the podcast is over.
Yeah, bingo, ate your
There's
penguin.
nothing to talk about here. This is just garbage.
Yeah, I worked with a guy named Frazier. I did earthquake rehab with an Australian guy named Frazier in Koreatown, like in the late 80s. Yeah. And he drove a VW microvan everywhere. And he's just a man, like he sailed on ships. And he's from Australia. He just traveled around and picked up jobs. And he was funny. And he liked me, and he had a crazy sense of humor because he's Australian. And he would have lunch in his minivan.
Yeah,
and he just opened the camper van, slide the door open, sit at the little fold-out table there. And he's like, you got to try Vegemite. And I was like, all right, I'll try anything. And he fucking smeared some on a cracker, and I just
what the fuck is it? I never.
Okay,
it looks
listen.
weird.
Yeah.
Whenever you use the word yeast and fermentation, unless we're talking about beer, I'm out. Like it's like fermented yeast paste or something.
It's gross. I mean, it's absolutely gross.
You make toilet wine out
Never
of that.
tried it till a year ago, and that song was huge. And I'd have a Vegemite sandwich. And I never knew what the fuck it was. And then this guy had the podcast where you try it.
It's made of brewer's yeast. Brewer's yeast is ipecac, man. If anyone's ever tasted brewer's yeast, it'll make you gag.
Actually, technically, it's leftover brewer's yeast.
It's leftover brewer's yeast.
Even worse.
Sewage.
Spent brewer's yeast. Yeah,
sewage.
they didn't want to throw it in the river, so they sold it to drunk people.
Australians. Hi, my.
Good eye.
All right, what else?
Oh, man. I got some sad news, but first we'll get to Pastor wrote a.
No, I think I
Get onto it. Because,
Yeah.
look, we need to do them right now.
sorry,
here.
we do.
Former
Titus
KROQ.
Welliver's here,
Yeah.
so that's why. Go ahead.
Yeah, DJ Jed the Fish spent nearly 35 years at iconic radio station KROQ.
Yeah.
Rest in peace at 69.
Yeah, he was an icon, man.
He really is, man. I'm like shook by this right now. It hurts.
Everybody's dying. Like in between the Roundup and the food and fucking whatever they're putting in the cigarettes now. He had lung cancer, but people are just dying. 2 days ago. Who was it? Died at 73. Oh, the original Judas Priest drummer. 73.
Oh, really?
That's just fucking nuts, man. People are just dropping. There's no 85 anymore.
Yeah.
You're not going to hear it.
Well, I don't want to say anything good came out of this, but between Nicky Katz and Jed the Fish, two of my friends dying in like 3.5 days.
Yeah.
I was able to use it to my advantage for once.
Oh, no.
No one ever feels sorry for me, but I had my girlfriend last night going, what are you being such a dick for? And I just go, I had 2 friends die in 3 days. She went, okay. I'm sorry.
Well played.
And I thought it's the only time I've ever been able to play a card.
Yeah.
Because everyone just thinks I'm a dick and no one cares all the time. And there's nothing I can play, but you got 2 guys, 2 friends drop in 3.5 days.
Oh.
You can play that card.
I like he's got the Devo hat there, the helmet.
Yeah.
In the blue. It's
Probably
the blue
Weenie
version.
Bros.
Yeah, Jed was a character. He was a staple. KROQ was huge. He was there when I got to KROQ. He was funny. It was funny. He has this beautiful, big Victorian home in Pasadena, California, like crazy old 20s, colorful. I saw it in part of the obituary. And I went there when I was, because I love homes, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And this is beautiful. I mean, you'd probably find a picture of Jed's home, but, you know, real Pasadena, old school Victorian style, done to the nines.
Beautiful, yeah.
And I had a great afternoon with him. Like he knew I was a carpenter when I started off at KROQ, and he invited me over one day. And I just sat with him in his living room. We just talked and laughed and talked, and he was kind of showing me around and showing me his plans. It's kind of nice, people with their homes, when they're really into it. It's kind of intimate because they walk you through it and they go, here's what I did. And then they go, here's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
What do you think? And I'm thinking about doing a studio in the back. You know, I can record my studio. And he was just a funny, quirky guy with an infectious laugh, and he had a great personality. It was kind of perfect for KROQ. You know, he wouldn't have been hired by it like a top 20 station.
Yeah, it looks like David Lee Roth right there. Isn't that weird?
A little bit,
like
yeah.
a side view,
He's like
you know?
Yeah, he's good looking with a different kind of look, and it's just a cool dude. Very untraditional radio, like
a cool nerd personality on the air.
He was the very first unassuming presence on radio that I had ever heard.
Did he retire eventually?
I think he moved over to Sirius XM, and then I think his health got the better of him. But you know, there used to be guys that really were in love with their voice, you know, and they had these radio voices and they kept it up. He didn't have that pretense. He was just this funny, quirky, weird guy.
It was endearing.
Yeah, and then KROQ became the home for the quirky, weird guys. They didn't want guys that had traditional radio. That was your dad's radio station, you know?
He sort of set it off into that area in 1978. He got into the struggling FM station, KROQ, and 78? 78,
That's
they
wild.
say, yeah. And then he was breaking punk bands and alternative, new wave. You know, he ushered in that era back then. And
X probably. He's probably playing X. He's probably playing like Dead Kennedys and, you know.
Duran.
Yeah, and then it gets into that. Yeah,
totally,
the new wave. Because they go full tilt new wave.
You know, he really, he really was a big part of the culture in Los Angeles.
Yeah,
it was back in a time where you could be on a radio station and people knew who you were, and you'd hear it coming out of people's car windows because they drove with their windows down because SoCal's hot outside and didn't have air conditioning in the PT Cruiser, and so they had the windows down, and it was like a scene, man. I mean,
DJs were huge back then. You know, huge.
We would do a calendar signing every year at KROQ, and like Best Buy parking lot in Costa Mesa or something, 2,000 people would show up and wait in line for like 9 hours, just to get their calendar signed.
I met the Fish.
Yeah.
We had a dude, you can't even believe it. Oh, God, look at that.
I knew you'd love his. That's his house.
See, I play the lottery each week just so I can completely check out of life into something like that. Patio with my dog Gertie. And, you know, just chilling there. And then big garage in the back with some, you know, 911s and just staying in your domain.
Oh, you got your Luft cult hat on.
Yeah.
I've had my car there a few times.
Yeah, this weekend, the Air and Water.
Yeah, where is it?
It's in, like, Costa Mesa or something.
Oh, is it this weekend?
Yeah. Sorry, next weekend. This weekend, no, I'm in Austin tomorrow. But next weekend, Saturday. Yeah, you want to go?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Hit me up then.
There's a picture of my 935 there in when they did it in Universal Studios backlot.
That's the best. They just did that 10-year anniversary, and they had it there 6 months ago again. There's nothing better than that.
You just walk around and look at vintage Porsches.
Yeah, and you're on the back lot of like Chicago, and then here's Jaws, and then
well, they did it at a lumber yard in like Culver City or something.
I went to all those.
Oh, you went to all?
All of them. Yep. And then by the time they got to number, I think it was like 6 or whatever, they did the Universal, and then they did it 6 months ago for the 10-year. But when they did it at Universal, I was like, this is the greatest car show I've ever been to.
Huh.
Because I love that old Hollywood backlot shit. There's the Psycho House. There's a fucking, a 911T.
Yeah. I think that's my car in the back lot of Universal
Oh, there it is, right there. When you walk in, that was the you had the crown jewel parking spot. That's right when you first walk in.
Forgive my ignorance. What's this Luftgekocht?
How do you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Luft the Gold.
Luft is like air, right?
Yeah.
Luft balloons.
It's air. It's the celebration of air-cooled 911 or Porsches, not just 911s, 356s, and all that.
Yeah.
And they get this entire Universal Studios backlot on a Saturday, and they put all these cars there.
Well, they put it in different locations as well.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So the new one they just dropped is going to be in North Carolina in October.
Cool.
Durham.
Oh, but they're doing one 2 Saturdays from now.
Right, yeah, but that's called air and water, so they do 2 a year now. So one's air and water and one's only air.
I do the oil and vinegar for the Italian guys once a year. We do it at the old spaghetti factory in Pasadena. It's a smaller crew. A lot of PT cruisers out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's make a date for that because I've been to a couple, but it's been a minute.
God, I love it.
Dean Delray special. Out as we speak, 5836 on YouTube.
Shot in a cave in the middle of Tennessee.
Yeah, really cool looking. I was watching it and funny. Titus Welliver, you know that name. He'll be in studio right after this. Homes.com. Some say Homes.com is the best home shopping site. It may be Homes.com's super comprehensive and transparent agency directory, or maybe it's that Homes.com is the only site that always directly connects you with the listing agent who knows the home best. Perhaps it's because Homes.com has the most in-depth neighborhood content of any home shopping site that's extensively researched to highlight the personality of each neighborhood. Homes.com goes above and beyond to bring home shoppers the in-depth info they need to find the right home. Homes.com. We've done your homework. Rough greens. Sometimes in life, you want to get the truth, you got to take a look at the numbers. Naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, the creator of Rough Greens, well, he tells us that unfortunately 50% of all dogs over 10 years of age will die of cancer. And Dr. Dennis knows what he's talking about. He's put his life's blood into this product and is passionate about it. I've talked to him about it more than once. So it's attributed basically to your dog's diet. Your dog doesn't have a good diet, and that's where Rough Greens comes in. But there's good news. There's thousands of testimonials and 5-star reviews every month. Rough Greens is now the #1 all-natural dog supplement in America, and you don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. You just sprinkle Rough Greens on the existing food. I do that with Phil. You just add a scoop, and that makes your dog, you'll notice your dog's healthier, more energy, it's better coat. It is Rough Greens, right, Dawson?
Fetch a free Jumpstart trial bag for your dog today. Go to roughgreens.com. Just use promo code ADAM. That's RUFF greens.com and use promo code ADAM and just cover shipping. You don't have to change your dog's food to improve your dog's health. Just add a scoop of Rough Greens. Here's a beat from Beat It Out with Adam Carolla and Jay Moore.
Just text somebody, you left your phone here.
How about this? How about next time I see you, I go, Jay, you butt dial me all the time. You don't even know it. I hear you. You just butt dial me. And I've heard you talk a couple of times. I heard my name come up a couple of times. If you immediately go, oh, I'm just fucking around, then I know you're talking shit.
That wouldn't even move my needle whatsoever.
But most people...
You would just hear me talking to my dogs as Ray Liotta. That was all the money we had, Karen!
Subscribe to Beat It Out on Substack at adamcarolla.com/Substack. Now back to the Adam Carolla Show.
Well, Titus Welliver, actor, is in studio. Third and final season of BOSCH. Legacy is out as we speak. Oh, wait a minute. Did I screw that up? Yes. 10 episodes? I got that right?
You got that right. The final 2 come out tomorrow.
Okay, and that's on Amazon.
Yes, sir.
So Titus has done a lot of different stuff over the years. I guess started mainly known for theatrical, right? Like The Town and Argo and Shaft and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then more into television, right?
Yeah, I mean, TV was sort of the cornerstone of sort of moving me forward. I started working with Stephen Bochco and David Milch and doing NYPD Blue, and then we did Brooklyn South, and then Deadwood, and then that sort of, moved me over, and I was doing Sons of Anarchy and all these other shows, The Good Wife, and of course Lost, which is now getting has had a resurgence of fandom with it being re-released on Netflix.
Oh, so are they going to reboot that?
No, they're not rebooting it. They're grabbing up shows. So Suits, which was already a big hit when Netflix picked it back up. Now they've rerun the whole original series, and now they're doing a new one.
Yeah, I mean, I always say my kids who are 18 now, they love The Office, they love Friends, they love all the stuff from before they're born.
Right.
But then we had I Love Lucy and all that stuff. So it's a cyclical thing, and why shouldn't it be that way? And there used to be probably a chasm because there was black and white and there was color. And so when we grew up, it's like, oh, that's black and white. So that we know that's our dad's old show, you know? But Friends just looks like Friends, just like any sitcom that's done yesterday, right?
Well, it still holds up. But think about it. When we were kids, we watched The Little Rascals and The Three Stooges and The Honeymooners. Mm-hmm. All that stuff came back and it still holds up to this day. I mean, there's certainly some questionable stuff, perhaps in The Little Rascals, for people, but we're used to that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the Bible has some sort of quote that says he was a decent man of his time. They're smart because they go, because now we think he's a douche,
right,
or he's created too many microaggressions, or he's going to get Me Too'd. But so they were smart. They were like, of his time. Like, I feel like I want that next to my name. Like, Adam was a good dude of his time.
Yeah. Leave him alone.
Leave him alone is basically what we're saying.
He's done no harm.
So you have a very interesting background, and there's a lot of crazy trauma in your life as well, right?
Yes.
Lost siblings and
my late wife too, as well. Yeah.
I don't know. I was talking at the beginning of the show that I lost 2 friends in like 3 days or something, and they weren't old. And there's a part of you that goes, oh man, doesn't that make you think about your own whatever? And then there's another part that's like, going out to dinner with Dr. Drew tonight.
Right.
And I'm just going to enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a blessing that we're not cursed with this constant, saddled with this, it could have been me, or when is my time coming up? I don't know how but I've never lost a sibling young or a wife or any of that.
Well, I think you look, there's no handbook for grief, right? You just process it. You have to learn to live with it, and it creates a void in your heart. I lost an infant sister and my older brother and my younger brother. And my late wife passed away from cancer very, very young. So nothing, no matter what, nothing prepares you for any of that stuff. But it's just really how you process and learn how to have to stay engaged in life, right? It no matter where it puts you emotionally in the absolute bottom of the barrel, but you find a way, and eventually in that healing process, then as they say, without being cliche, then you can focus more on the good memories, and it's less of being morose and just sort of being stuck in that place of the loss.
Yeah, I was thinking about the other day, and I realized that you have, memories of people, and as long as you have memories of them, then they're alive, because they're alive in your head because you have those memories. And if you really break it down, it's not like you see your sister or your friend, or like you don't see them every day.
No.
You might see them pretty sparingly.
Yeah.
But you have these thoughts and these memories, and you kind of reenact them in your head. Mm-hmm. And so it's like Jed the Fish from KROQ. Good dude.
Yeah.
I didn't hang out with Jed the Fish.
Right.
I have a lot of memories of him, and like good memories. And if he was still alive and living in Pasadena, I would still have those memories.
Right. Of course.
And so he is, in my head, I see a younger version of him, us in a different surrounding.
Yeah.
And we're laughing.
Yeah.
So he's alive.
There is a kind of eternal thing, and certainly in the nature of what we do, right? That as performers, that stuff you kind of live on.
Yeah, like Chris Farley's alive, really sort of practically, because every time you turn the TV on, there's just him being Chris Farley,
right. Right. And then
and Frank Sinatra too, I guess.
That stays, forever. And it's being rediscovered, and it offers us some form of comfort, despite the fact. But we are of a certain age now where you start to see, particularly in music, it seems like every other week, and they come in always in 3s and 4s. It'll be this drummer has passed away, and this guitar player, and this lead singer, and you start to see those people that you consider to be kind of ageless because their music or their films have been such a part of your life.
It is interesting too, which is if you can kind of outkick your coverage with your lifespan, which is my dad, who died recently, died at 93, and everyone he knew is already dead.
Right.
So there's really nobody to go to the funeral.
Right.
You die like James Dean, you get a pretty good crowd.
Right. I'm sorry for your loss, but 93 is a good run. My mom was 92, and I remember her saying, I've had a really, really good life.
Well, I mean, you think about it, nobody goes on forever. I hate cliches, but I'm just saying, you got a window.
Yeah.
And the window's, 0 to 95, let's say practically. Mm-hmm. And then some people get hit by street trolleys at 14, and that's as far as they made it, Once you make it into 72, you're playing with house money, essentially.
Right.
And you've done better than 99.7% of humanity that came before you, because everyone used to die in their 40s and stuff, know? So you're in some kind of rarefied air that most people don't get to.
Yeah.
So you can't, it's kind of weird. I don't even grieve because I'm like, you did the best you could possibly do in the alive department.
Right. Well, and all, so many of the great poets and sort of, grand minds have such an interesting approach to, talking about death and how you meet it and where it is. And I remember my father saying to me at one point, this is sort of, I was a young kid, he said, well, son, that's the price of admission. And I thought, well, thanks, Dad. That makes me, that really comforts me.
Well, your dad lost kids, children.
Outlived 3 of his children and one of his wives. And that's Shakespearean
brutal.
kind of stuff that, it's not supposed to happen.
Yeah, I mean, outliving one kid is tragedy, and 2 is unthinkable, and 3 is like cursed or something. Like that's insane.
No, and he went through, and then he got to a point where he began to self-medicate, and his really devolved into chronic alcoholism, which ultimately ended his life. At 75. So it's all in how you navigate that, but it's not for me to judge that. I can't imagine. I have 3 children and 3 stepchildren, and so I that idea for me is so completely. But when my first child was born, my eldest son, Eamon, right after he was born, the first phone call I made was to my father. And he said, "Congratulations, I'm so excited." And I just said to him, "I get it, I understand." And he said, "I knew you would." And that was it.
Really?
And that was it.
So what were the circumstances with your siblings?
Well, my sister passed away from SIDS, or as they called it back then, crib death, which is sudden infant death syndrome. And she was about 4 months old. My brother Eli, my younger brother, 8 years younger, was a photojournalist. He'd been living on the Laos-Cambodian border with the Montagnards. He was doing a photographic essay on sort of the aftermath of the Vietnam War, because Special Forces used the Montagnards and trained them. And he was killed by misadventure. He was in Chiang Mai, where he had an apartment and
what year
a
was
dark
this?
room. This was in 1991. And he went into, after working all day, went into a little bar near his apartment and was having a beer. And when he went into the restroom, these guys clocked him thinking he might have money, and they dosed his beer with heroin. And he drank the beer and went into anaphylactic shock and died, 21 years old.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then my older brother...
How'd they ever get to the bottom of that?
Well, my father hired private detectives.
I was going to say, it sounds like some outside forces getting involved.
It was really, really difficult because there's a tremendous amount of corruption in that government and with the law enforcement there in Thailand.
Oh, Thailand, sorry.
So it took forever, and I have to say there were about 3 different versions of stories, but the ultimate conclusion was that it was a gang thing, and really just tragic. And then my older brother Silas had a pre-existing condition. He had a form of muscular dystrophy called myotonia, and his had manifested in his heart. And so at 45, his heart just gave out. And that being the biggest muscle and the one that keeps us alive, he passed away. So it's, yeah. And, you don't
get much more range than that either.
No.
Like from the beginning to the mid-40s to the middle to dosed with, hallucinogens or whatever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No. And I miss them every day, but I hold them deeply in my heart. And as you said, right, there are things that remind us. I mean, I'll be driving along and thinking about them, and it's always this sort of odd thing that occurs. They'll come into my head, and all of a sudden a piece of music will come on randomly on my phone that I'm playing through and into my car, and it's connected directly to one of my brothers.
Yeah,
very strange. So I feel like what is it? Woody Allen said, I don't believe in an afterlife, although I'm bringing a change of underwear. I mean, some of those things, they happen all too often, and I don't think that they're coincidence. So,
yeah, I was talking to someone about this the other day. I don't have strong opinions about the afterlife. There either be something or there'll be nothing, but either way, I'm kind of covered, because if there's something, there's something. And then if there's nothing, well, then I'll just join the Legion of Greats who are experiencing nothing.
You will do your podcast in the clouds, brother, and that'll just be and continue to do the work that you do.
Well, you were talking off the air. You said you're out in Topanga.
Yes.
And Topanga's a canyon that they closed, and maybe it's reopened now.
No, it's still closed.
Oh, it's still closed.
And
for fire or mudslides?
For fire. But last year it was months and months and months because of the mudslides. And then miraculously, one day, Topanga's going to be opened in a week. After saying it wasn't going to be open, it had already been closed for months, and they were predicting another 3 or 4 months, and then. Yes, the election cycle, somehow it magically reopened, but now it's closed.
So Topanga used to be funky.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of cool, but it used to be where hippies and like Laurel Canyon was that way in the
Yeah.
60s and the 70s. It's where the rock bands and the
All of them.
artists and the hippies hung out. And then at some point, things get gentrified and expensive, and out go the cool folks, and in come the suits. But Topanga, when I started construction, a lot of guys I worked with lived up in Topanga, and they were funky, and they had people called creekers. They lived in the creeks of Topangas.
They're
and it
still
was
there.
Surfers and funky dudes all lived up there. And then stuff got expensive. My sister lives up there, but it's always a challenge because there's always a mudslide or a fire or something like that. But the fire missed you guys, but not all of you guys, right?
No, a lot of it came up. Tuna destroyed a lot of houses on Tuna Canyon, and a lot of houses, very close to ours, and got really close to Topanga Town. They kind of got it under control right by the lumber yard there.
Yeah, Topanga lumber. Yeah,
and it could have taken everything out,
but you were spared. Your home was spared.
Our house was. We spent 10 days, and closed up in a hotel, and there was no access. But I had a neighbor who stayed, who was part of the arson watch and everything. So he and I were communicating daily, and then I got up there, and I have to say, when I was able to get back in, and I went back several days before I brought my whole family back in because they were not going to do it. They had the fire department, and there were guys from all over the country. I mean, it wasn't just Marin County, and then they had this whole firefighter program from the Department of Corrections.
Oh yeah,
and these guys were up there working, clearing land, cutting fire trails, and things like that. And they did the best they possibly could, and they saved a lot. But potentially. And the Palisades was where my daughter went to high school and elementary school, and that was many of our friends lived there, and in Malibu, and it's just tragic. It's devastating, and it's I was telling you that I've been watching you going out there and keeping people up to date, and your commentary. Because I think that, the grieving process of that is something that everyone is going to have to do individually. But it's good to see some movement going forward. But it's still very, you talk to one person, they say it's going to be a decade. And then somebody else will say, well, no, I know a contractor who's already started 3 different projects in the Palisades, new builds there, but
new builds on old land.
That's
been cleared.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see human beings work like army ants in the sense that you see an anthill, and then when you're a kid you just knock it over with your foot, and you see the ants run around, and then you come back 2 days later and they're putting the anthill back together again, and it's basically the same thing, just with language and heavy equipment and stuff. But it's just a whole army of ants lands, and they're just trucks and skip loaders, and everyone's just doing their thing. And it's also, there's something, I don't know why, but I find it interesting when there's a 160-pound guy and he's operating a 7-ton vehicle and it's lifting 20 tons in the air and putting it in another. It's like these little ants inside these huge robots doing crazy feats.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what those machines are doing while there's a guy sitting inside of it. I mean, I don't want to sound like I just took mushrooms, but I mean, there's a human being sitting inside a giant robot, and the robot is doing its bidding.
Yeah.
And that what it's capable of doing is incredible, because 30 human beings couldn't lift that slab of concrete, but 165-pound guy can in the robot.
But that sort of brings us back full circle, because I remember the last time I was on the show, we ended up talking about those Time Life books. You remember the ones about UFOs and things?
So the West, the Old West. Yeah.
Apropos of what you're saying, we know that the aliens built those pyramids in Egypt and Angkor Wat and all the Mayan pyramids. There's no way that there wasn't some alien being down there with a front loader and a skidder and
It is. It is. I mean, human ingenuity is kind of insane.
It is.
And if you go to I recently did a gig at a World War II airplane museum. You just look at all that stuff, and there was no computers, there was no chips, everything was mechanical.
Yeah.
And you look at a ball turret gunner and stuff like that, and you're like, wow, like crazy.
Incredible.
It is crazy. And then you kind of go back and you see a Great Wall of China or a pyramid or something like that. There's also I don't know why this popped in my head, but there's a bizarre there's a pragmatism that I enjoy in human beings. Like I was building an old Spanish house up on top of Lake Hollywood, and I was going to a place in the San Fernando Valley to buy a large, mature cactus to put as like a centerpiece in a courtyard. And I wanted one that was 6-7 feet tall and mature. But of course, it's got these 3-inch spines sticking out and everything. And I was driving to the place going, yeah, come pick it up, And I was like, how would one transport a cactus? How are they going to do it? Because once I pick the cactus out, they can't hit it. They can't put their gloves on it. It's impossible. And they can't put a piece of machinery on it because it'll destroy it or break it. They use a 10-foot length of garden hose. Two guys, like a sling. And they just kind of tip it over and carry it like a sling with garden hose.
That's wild.
And I'm like, of course, because the garden hose can do no damage to it.
Right.
Strong as hell.
Yeah.
And it's two dudes just carrying it like a stretcher on a piece of common garden hose. And I'm like, I would have never thought of that.
Well, they figured
but
that
they
out.
figured it out.
Yeah.
And that's all we do as human beings is sort of figure things out. But the process of going down there and seeing how fast these guys work and how they utilize equipment, but a lot of the stuff is by hand too, and how they have to transport the equipment there.
Yeah,
they have to take everything out of that place. Like it's interesting. It also gives you a little hope for humanity because when you turn on the news and you see people burning cop cars and throwing things through plate glass windows and like looting a CVS and stuff like that, you go, what have we become?
For what?
For what? Like, what are we even doing here? And then you see the army of people rebuilding this place in a hurry, and everyone's competent. Like the dump truck guy's doing something different than the skip loader guy's doing something different than the traffic management guy. Everyone's doing something different, like the army ants. They all got their job. They're all doing it, and they go fast.
No, it's synchronistic, and that's having worked in the construction business a million years ago, that was sort of the reward, for lack of a better term, was to go through that process. All the different guys, the master carpenters and the guys who were the tin knockers and the guys who would come in and were pouring the concrete and doing the rebar. I mean, all that simultaneously. We're just ants. We're just big ants.
I have a thought, which I think is super important, and then also not. It's valuable, and we're not getting enough of it.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, I don't know, people go, you don't get enough vitamin D because you got to be outside more, and you have to be in the sunshine, and you're inside, and we're not getting enough of this nutrient, which is finishing things.
Right.
People are kind of sitting in cubicles, and they're living their life in the middle.
Yeah.
And when you see, and it's depressing. Yes, and when you see a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you do the beginning, middle, and end part, and you step back and you go, okay, I just framed that garage and it's done. Or I remember when I built that, it's still working today, or whatever that thing is. There's a sense of satisfaction, and it also brings a kind of sanity with it.
Yes.
That the middle people, the people that are just, the people at LAX who are doing TSA and always in a bad mood because they're just sitting there and they're like, ID. No, I don't need your boarding pass. I told you I need your ID, not your board. No liquids. Like all day, every day, one middle, right?
Crank.
Right, no satisfaction, no stand back and sort of taking in what you've accomplished. And by the way, it could be a play. It doesn't have to be an apartment building. It could be something.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I don't think we're getting enough exposure to that part. Those guys who work there, they have a kind of they're sort of grounded emotionally because they pull up on those lots that are burnt out and they go, we're going to have this cleared in 4 days.
Yeah.
And they go, day one, I want all the steel down. Day one, and they go, day two, I want all the concrete out of here. And they're constantly, and then at some point they step back, they look at it, it's cleared, they crack a beer, and they go, all right, let's do the next one.
Yep.
But they have a moment of, this is what it looks like now. This is what it looked like when I rolled up on here 5 days ago, and we're going to do the next one.
Yeah.
But also they're imbibed or imbued with this sense of like, I know what this is.
Right.
I know how to do it. Every one of these guys just shows up and goes, I know what we're doing here.
And they do.
And they do it. But there's a lot of people are just floating in the middle.
Yeah.
And they never get that sense.
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, their investment, right? Like you said, it's kind of like a mushroom existence.
Yeah.
You're not getting enough D3, but you're sedentary.
Well,
so if you're sedentary like that, then how does that manifest in your human evolution and
well,
whatnot?
society has evolved into that. You standing at the airport,
right,
talking to people about taking liquids out of their backpack because in the past there was no airplane, there's no airport, there's no liquids you're traveling with, there's no conveyor belts, there's no anything. So it has evolved into that. And what I'm saying to those people is you're going to have to start your own projects at home. Like you're going to have to get a potter's wheel or build a treehouse or you have to do something. You have to do something or anything because it's not going to be baked in anymore.
No.
There's no more barn raising. Simply Safe. Wow. The things you worry about at home. Sometimes it's even your kids' grades, termites that leave the oven on. Simply Safe. Now you don't have to worry. Millions of Americans enjoy Simply Safe because it brings them greater security and peace of mind every time they arm the system, whether they're heading out in the morning or locking up at night. But traditional security systems only take action after someone has already broken in and it's too late. Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection can help prevent break-ins before they happen. AI-powered cameras backed by live professional monitoring agents monitor your property and detect suspicious activity. Monitoring plans start affordably at around $1 a day for peace of mind. $1 a day. How about that? Simply Safe. Am I right, Dawson?
You can get 50% off your new Simply Safe system with professional monitoring and your first month free at simplysafe.com/Adam. Just head to simplysafe.com/Adam to claim your discount and make sure your home is safe this year. Keep your home, your family.
I actually got to see several of those because my father lived in Maine.
Several barn raisings?
Yeah, and those were really fascinating. Particularly, and I remember as a very small boy one time, my grandfather took me. We were in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, and he took me to this Amish place.
Yeah.
And I got to see them do that. And that was, you want to talk about ants, so it's sort of like the entire community came together and, they framed this whole thing out and they put it together. It's it's pegged.
Yeah.
And then them pushing it up with poles. It was really fascinating. And you're a little kid, you're playing with Legos, so you have some kind of a sense of what's going on. But to behold that was kind of magical.
Did he take you for that event?
Precisely for that. Because he was a construction guy. He was a master carpenter, and he was in construction. And
your grandfather,
yeah, and he just thought that would be something that would interest me.
It's really interesting because there's ways you can put wood together, And like the most basic way is just to butt it together and put a big screw in it. And then you could dowel it together, which is a little more advanced. But then you could do joinery.
Yeah.
Which is what they're doing.
Incredible stuff.
And the idea that you're building a whole barn with no timber bolts or lag bolts or carriage bolts, no nuts, no bolts, no steel.
Yeah. And you can't blow those things down. I remember my father bought a parcel of land on the St. Johns River, right on the Maine Canadian border, because he painted sort of in the outback in an area called Allagash, Maine. And so he found these guys. He was going to build a log cabin, something very, very simple. And they went in and they cut down the existing trees, and they constructed the cabin from that. Everything, they milled it, and did all the work there. And with the exception of the floorboards, there were no nails in that at all. It was all, I can remember watching them creating the pegs with hatchets and things that put this thing together. It was wild. And you know, they were milling, you know, literally taking cutting these pine boards, not even seizing, nothing, no kiln or anything like that, and just slapping it together.
It's a kind of satisfying that people should experience, and they're kind of robbed of it. Because they're buying shit at IKEA and playing video games and calling Grubhub. And they don't really understand what that is and how important it is. Yeah. And they also try to avoid it. They're like, I don't want to do that shit. I'm like, you're avoiding something that's super important. And I've been noticing that too big a part of our populace has been avoiding that part of life, and it leads to thoughts that are impractical. They're not pragmatic. They're not linear. You know, it's caused a lot of the. I think when people go like, "What's going on out there in the world?" and I go, "Way too many people staring at screens and not dealing with lumber,
with
basically,
anything.
or with anything,
anything other than what's in the palm of their hand."
Right, and then feeling like they have some sort of expertise when they don't have any form of expertise.
Yeah.
Because what is an expertise? Like, okay, somebody says, 20 minutes ago, someone brings up the subject of tariffs.
Right.
All right. Every financial expert on this side says it's a bad idea. This side says it's a great idea. Yeah. Then they bring up examples of tariffs in the past, and that gets shot down. Then someone says, yeah, but they're doing a tariff on us. And then they go, but here's why that's not going to work. So is there such a thing as an expert on tariffs? And I would argue no, because I've heard 2,000 experts, and they all have different opinions.
Right.
But when it comes to barn raising, there's only one way.
Right.
And you can be an expert.
Yeah, you can. But I think that it's that whole part of us, the tactile experience of so many things that people take for granted. And now with this constant overload of information and or entertainment, or kind of mindless entertainment, that is removing that chip in us for interest in things beyond, taking pictures of our food and posting it on social media, and that worries me. That really, really worries me. And so it sort of goes back to the thing of like, when you have a conversation, you say, "Oh, we're going to watch this movie. It's Raging Bull. Oh, wait, you didn't say that this was black and white. Is this an old movie?" Well, not really an old movie,
right?
But black and white. Then you have to just sort of. I don't have that with my kids because they've grown up watching films and they're cinephiles, and I suppose to a certain degree, I maybe forced that upon them, but thankfully it kind of connected. But look, we're all guilty to a certain degree of being slaves to the device, right? But I try to be very, very careful. But we are also of a generation where we didn't have any of those things. I mean, Pong didn't even come along until we were teenagers, and we were still listening to vinyl and making mixtapes.
Yeah, I don't really think back and wax too poetic about those times, but it's probably good that we were living in that analog world and just sort of tasked with entertaining ourselves. Yeah. I've always felt like consuming a lot. I mean, I basically had this saying, which is build your own museum. Don't walk through everyone else's museum. Right. You want your own museum, you know, which is not to say you can't appreciate other people's museum.
No.
But sitting around yelling, entertain me over and over again is not going to spark a lot of creativity in you. It's being satiated and quelled by this never-ending stream of high-end entertainment, too. Like, stuff is really well done.
It
now.
is, but it's there's a passivity on the viewer's part. And,
yes, you're in the passenger seat. You're not really behind the wheel,
which I don't.
If you're in the car at all,
like that's why I love shows like Main Cabin Masters. I gravitate towards those channels. You're watching people create things and you can't, you can change the channel, but the passivity is the thing that drives me kind of nuts.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I feel bad for people that don't really have a passion or an interest, or even having a skill. Is just nice.
Yeah,
an expertise, like feeling like you own some subject matter.
Yeah,
where you go, I know what that is.
Right,
and I think we're robbing people of that. You talked about cinephile. My son's kind of that way, and I'm curious, like, what are some of your favorite movies?
Well, I'm a big. Both of my parents were cinephiles, so we went to the movies every weekend, be it to see a new film or we would go to see film festivals and things. So I grew up on a steady diet of Kurosawa and and Capra and all those great films. And then, of course, being a kid of the '60s, the whole change, the dynamic of. With films like Easy Rider and this sort of anti-establishment, the French New Wave, we were really, really lucky, and into the '70s. And so I've got a group of friends that come up periodically, and I'll either cook some food or we'll order some stuff in. And it's not like a book club. We call it movie club, just as a joke. But we just watch films that we like, and sometimes I'll try to pull out something really obscure, knowing that probably none of the guys have seen it, or it's not been available, and I've found a way to get my hands on it, and I do that. I mean, I watch films endlessly, and there's a lot to that. It's also a part of history, and it's not just because I'm an actor, but it's always been something that's given me tremendous pleasure, and I'm glad that I could kind of pass that off, to my kids, because they're equally invested in that. And that's and we don't sit around and have long, drawn out, academic conversations. We're not reenacting the Charlie Rose show or anything in the living room after the film, but It is also, it's very primal, right? It sort of goes back to, it's sort of like doing cave paintings, sitting around some campfire. It's just slightly more, moved forward, but it is what it is. But it makes you think. Some films are no-think. They're just pure kind of mindless entertainment, and they have value, right? And then other films really deeply move you, and they stay with you. So,
as I think about it, like I love The Town, one of the movies you were in, and I really found it to be a really good and entertaining movie. But for me, I find myself, I probably said as an example or metaphor like 1,000 times that scene where they're escaping the bank robbery, and they all come pulling up, and there's that Boston cop who sort of looks at them. Sees them all in the car with their guns and costumes and everything, and just very slowly just sort of turns the other way. I've said that, like, I've used that as an example of, in life, when people like see something and go, all right, but I'm making a business decision here.
Right.
And I'm not going to do my job. I'll just look this way and they will go away. And so there's a lot of examples, like in films, like people go, it's a lot like, in this movie, that scene, or that movie, in this scene, like you have a visual manifestation of that, of something being acted out.
Right.
That is an attitude. Oh, now we're looking at it right now. Yeah, they all jump out of the Jeep Cherokee, and the cop's just staring at him. Yeah. And he knows he's totally outgunned.
It's not doing anything.
It's not going to work.
But it is, there you go.
And he literally just looks the other way.
Decision made.
Right. He made a business decision, and there's a lot of that. You'll see it in life.
Who's that?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you will see it in life. And that I get. That's a form of survival. That cop looks at that situation and says,
I think we all would have done the same thing.
But there's also, going back to passivity, I think there are a lot of people that are, it's sort of like seeing some, it's like when kids are little and they'll drop something on the floor and kind of walk by it.
Right.
And then you have to say, hey, pick that up. And my father would always say, if it's not you, somebody else is going to have to pick that up.
Mm-hmm.
So do your thing. And I think there's a malaise. People aren't picking stuff up. They're just kind of turning and looking the other way.
Yeah.
It's not my problem. It's not my problem. Or I don't want to acknowledge. If I acknowledge that, then I'm going to have to engage. I'm going to have to be a person of action. And I don't really want to be a person of action. I'd rather just kind of let somebody else deal with that.
Yeah, I had this thought recently. It's not a happy thought, but you scroll through your phone and you see videos of people fighting on the schoolyards or fighting in the subway or whatever. And I think the natural and first reaction to people is like, God, look at those women fighting at the airport or fighting on the schoolyard. And then my next thought is a kind of brutality of it, which is there were fights and school fights and fist fights. And once one guy got punched and went down, the other guy walked away.
Right.
But he didn't kick him in the head while he was unconscious. It's like, and these people are being kicked in the head while they're lying there.
It's savage.
It's savage.
Really
okay, so it's savage. And so the other day, I have no idea. It's not like I subscribe to any of this stuff. I'm just looking at my phone, and there's a couple of probably 14, 15-year-old girls, and they're out front of a school where they pick up and drop off or whatever, and the one's just beating the bejesus out, and she's got the hair, and she's smacking against the concrete, and she's on the ground, and she's punching. And it's savage, and it's horrible. But the part I start noticing is there's teenage dudes that are just walking past, and they're sort of looking at it and walking, and one person's filming, and the other person's filming from this angle, and everyone is standing around. And I thought, that wouldn't have flown when I was in junior high or high school.
Not a chance.
We would have got involved. We wouldn't have let somebody be rendered brain dead.
Yeah.
And put on life support while we stood there and watched. And it wouldn't have mattered if it was a woman beating another woman to death, or a man beating a man, or a man beating a woman. We would have immediately intervened. And we would have done it en masse. My friends, I know who my friends are. We've done stuff like this. You jump in and you grab the guy and you grab him to the ground, or whatever. And then I thought, what is this?
Yeah.
This passivity. And then I started thinking it may be connected to the sort of toxic masculinity because really what you're saying is men intervene. Like we need men to intervene in this situation. There's there's a teacher having the shit beat out of him by a student, and everyone's just sort of hanging out.
Yeah.
By the way,
and filming it,
but also like, even when the other male teacher comes around the corner, or even sometimes the custodian or the guard, they kind of walk up and they're watching, and this person's throwing haymaker after haymaker on a ground and pound situation, and they're like, it's like, hey, that person got 5 licks in while you were trying to figure out what to do. How about you dive on top of them? And I thought, I think we've taken guys and we've said, don't get involved. Yeah. You're going to get sued. You're going to get trouble. Right. You're going to get Me Too'd. Yeah. There's race elements here. If that guy's beating her is black and you jump on the guy, someone may film it and call it a hate crime. And guys are they go, we're standing down.
Yeah.
We're just going to stand back and watch this woman get her head smashed into the sidewalk over and over again, and we're just going to keep walking.
Yeah.
And that's not where you want to be.
No, it's not. And it's a constant look. Every time you go on Facebook, there are endless clips like that.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way. I'm not sitting around. I don't subscribe to anything like that. I'm certainly not talking to my phone, like, show me a video of a school beating.
Right.
It's really primitive. It's really primitive. But I think
savage,
it is.
And
I agree with you that it's somehow been informed by don't get involved because the consequences will not be positive. Whereas back in our day, you would have immediately gotten involved no matter what. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to run and go and get a teacher. Kids took action on their own, separated two guys in a fight. Even if they knew, you might show up to, hey, Billy and Johnny are gonna fight, in the schoolyard after school. Well, there'd be, usually it was a lot of fronting and chesting and stuff like that. And they might exchange a few blows. But when somebody got hit and they were clearly hurt, then guys and gals, everybody got in and went, okay, it's over.
Right.
Because you wanted to get it out of there before the principal came in.
Right.
But now this whole passive stand by, it's terrible. And I was raised in a household where my father said, never be passive. If you see someone who needs help, help them. You go towards it. In the same way that firemen and policemen and military people are trained. And even, in that, we're in such a litigious society as well now that you don't want to. People are terrified. They want to get in their car and just let me get from where I am now and get home safely and not have some kind of a confrontation with some lunatic who's swerving their car at me because I'm not going fast enough.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect storm of lawyers and litigious. There's plenty of lawsuits where the criminal was up on the roof trying to bust through the skylight, get into the grocery store, and he broke his leg on the way down, and then they sued the grocery store owner. So it's like there's an element of like, I don't want to get involved for litigious reasons.
Yeah.
Then there is kind of a toxic masculinity, like someone may grab a clip of this and put it in the wrong context, and then it looks like I'm just punching a woman on the streets. Then there's a racial component of it where how's this going to play in our sort of hair trigger society? Mm-hmm. And then there's kind of a physiological thing, like maybe too many plastics in everyone's bloodstream and lack of testosterone and sperm count and things like that, where guys are rendered, they're sort of dulled.
Right.
Like they're not eager for the fray.
Right.
Like, when I was, I had a bunch of 19-year-old friends. We weren't bullies, but we were up for whatever you were up for.
Yeah.
And we were at the Sherman Oaks Galleria once, and we just left after watching a movie. And there was some punk guy, some kind of hooligan guy, and he had a chain and a steel thing on, kind of like nunchucks with like about a 3-foot chain and steel bar, and he was like swinging over his head. And we just all walked out and we looked at him, and he was terrorizing people in the parking lot at Sherman Oaks Galleria.
Yeah.
And there was like 3 of us. And we just like looked at the guy, and he's like, "Go, get the fuck out of here!" Yeah. He's like dressed punk rock, his hair spiked or whatever. Yeah. And it was like women were like running by him and scared, and kids and stuff. And he wasn't anywhere near us. He didn't even see us. But we just kind of looked at him and went, well, this isn't going to do.
No.
Like, he's terrorizing all these poor people that come here to shop with like their kids. And what the fuck is this guy up to?
We're going to put a stop to it.
And we just went up and put a stop to it.
Yeah.
And it was physical. And my friend ended up getting hit with the chain.
Yeah.
But we weren't going to stand by and watch it. We could have walked our car and just left, but we're like, this not going to do.
No.
This guy's fucking with people.
It doesn't fly.
And we got to stop it.
Yeah.
And if someone's getting their head mashed against the concrete, we just intervened.
Yeah.
And it's not even, people can say, oh, this is a hindsight is 2020, or you don't know how you would have reacted. And I go, oh, no, I do, because I've had a bunch of those incidents where I did get involved, and so did the guys I was around got involved with those situations.
Yeah.
So we would have. And traditionally, so did everybody.
Yep.
And now you've told guys you were toxic, put your hands in your pocket, keep walking, don't ever raise a hand. And physicality or violence is not the answer to anything. It's like, well, in that moment, it is the answer.
It is. Well, you have to be a person of action. And I understand it. People, it's, in our time, if a knife came out or something, it was pretty unusual. Mm-hmm. It was usually people were resolving things with their fists and their feet.
Right.
But now everybody's worried about getting shot because there's so many, people have access to guns. I remember as a kid, the first time I ever saw a zip gun, and that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. But typically if you had a beef with somebody, you met up in the schoolyard or in the park, and you had your group of friends so that it stayed even. Mm-hmm. And like you said, that was that. It got resolved. I mean, I had a thing when I was about 20 years old. I was walking down 14th Street back home in New York, and I saw this guy wailing on this woman, and I mean hitting her with a closed fist.
Wow.
And I just went nuts and, just broadsided him, and I got on top of him, and I'm beating the shit out of this guy. And the cops, which was unusual in the 80s, the cops showed up very quickly, got separated us and everything. And then the woman who he was beating up, and by the way, she looked like she'd been in a prize fight.
Right.
Starts talking about wanting to press charges against me.
Against you.
Because I assaulted, and then saying that I had assaulted her as well, and that I attacked them. And I was trying to rob them. Of course, the cops were wise to the whole thing, and they just looked at me and went, "Go home." But one of the cops stopped me, and he said, "Look, God bless, but you could have gotten, this guy might have had a gun or might have had a knife. It's leave it to the cops." They said there were no cops around, and I said I wasn't raised that way.
Yeah, and today, you may have been sued.
Sued 100%.
100%. And so,
no question about it.
Then the question is after you being sued, then what wisdom do you impart to your son? Because your dad said, don't be passive, get involved. But you just got sued.
Yeah.
And now you're worried about your son getting sued.
Yeah.
So now we're in some weird place where you're telling your son keep walking, perhaps, because of this litigious society. And it kind of trickles. Like I said, I think this is a kind of perfect storm of a litigious society with toxic masculinity, with men who just lower sperm count, testosterone and stuff. And now, again, the most horrifying thing of all these videos is the teenage dudes watching.
Yeah.
While people are being savagely
and
beaten.
laughing.
And laughing and filming and clapping. And
it's Clockwork Orange, if you think about it. Right?
Yes, it's Clockwork Orange.
And I remember seeing that film as a kid and thinking, well, society's crazy, but it's never going to be. That film resonates now more than ever. It's all of those things, which is, it's a sad commentary, but what is it going to take? That's the bigger the larger question is, what will be the catalyst that will affect some kind of change?
I think,
and bring the moral compass of society, and on that level, dealing with that.
I don't know. I don't know if there'll be an event, but we're going to have to get dads back involved in saying, look, there's a role.
Yeah.
And him showing his son how to throw a proper punch is not toxic masculinity.
No, it's not.
and the 9-year-old son wrestling with the neighbor kid on the lawn at the barbecue is something boys do.
It's okay.
And we don't have to keep yelling at them to stop running, or we'd have to eliminate the dodgeball and the football. Like, we're going to have to get dads and men and sort of start going, look, there's a place for this. It's in our biology, and weeding it out is leading to chaos.
Well, it's not unhealthy and it's not toxic.
Right.
I think about all of that. I mean, there were 5 of us boys, and
5 boys,
Irish psychopaths. I mean, we used to wail on each other, but there was wrestling and stuff that went on all the time. And if when we would get into physical confrontations, get close, my father would say, "Okay, you know what? I'm not having you trash the house with this insanity, but you need to work this out." And so we had a set of boxing gloves.
Really?
And my father would say, go out into the yard, and he would come out and he would stand there and go ding ding.
Right.
And we'd throw a few, get in a couple of shots on each other, and he'd go, okay, that's it, it's done.
Right.
Now stop it.
And then he would be arrested today if he did that.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And he'd be on the news, and they'd be disgusted, and people would be outraged. And I'm like, look, whatever little experiment we're running clearly isn't yielding the results that are desired. So let's see if we can rework this a little bit.
Well, what it also taught us was that as we got older, that whole thing wasn't an option.
Right.
We had conversations. Hey, you know what? If you're going to borrow that coat of mine, put it back in the closet where you found it. Or, oh, you borrowed that thing of mine, and you were so loaded at a party that you left that jacket there. So guess what? You're going to have to dig into your allowance. You're going to have to replace that coat.
Yeah.
And rather than the norm, which was just to start attacking each other like it was feeding time at the San Diego Zoo, just throwing hamburger on each other.
Well, really, what we're talking about and what male mammals need to do is test with rough play up to the sort of edge of injury and aggression and stuff like that. And I realized that there was a lot of right to that edge stuff that we were constantly testing. And then once that was sort of locked off and set with real aggressive wrestling and stuff, but right to the edge, then later on, when I found myself getting into physical confrontations with people I didn't know, going past that, but then knowing where to stop.
Right.
And so you would have never seen what you see now is kicking the person in the head while they're laying on the ground, because I tested it, figured it out, got comfortable with it, and that person on the ground is enough.
Right.
This is over.
It's finished.
And you can declare yourself the victor in this instance.
Yeah.
But I don't think kids are able to test that edge. And then what they're doing is they're sort of snapping.
Yeah.
And the snapping is insane because as the cops or the custodian or the school guard is pulling them away, they're trying to get an extra kick in.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is the behavior a dad would have if he was in court and the guy who raped his daughter was being arraigned, of diving over the wall and trying to choke him before he went to prison. Except for you guys are doing this over a Danish. Or a look. Or some disrespectful words or a comment or a tweet. You know what I mean? How does this trigger? I understand the dad who's staring at the rapist, you know, that guy, I get. Where did this come from? And obviously there's something missing.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, there's something in the chain that's broken.
Yes.
And that's it's pretty disheartening.
The chain needs
the chain needs
we need
fixing.
to return the chain. All right. I got some movies to give you to take with you, by the way, if you like movies. So I made some docs and some movies.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. This is totally out of left field. But because you and I share an obsession and fascination for, Paul Newman and Steve McQueen and cars and things. And I was doing some research that Paul Newman's watch that he wore sold at an auction for something like $500,000.
No, $18.8 million.
18.8?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, Dawson can look it up, but I mean, auctions have like a 10% VIG. So if they hammer at $16.5 million, you can tack on another, $1.7 million to the price of it.
17.8.
17.8 million.
What was it? Was it a Rolex or a tag?
Rolex Daytona.
Yeah, he gave it to his girlfriend's boyfriend, who helped him build like a cabin.
Wow.
Like when the guy was in college.
That's crazy. Because I know that the McQueen one, that was a tag, right, that he wore in Le Mans.
Yeah, they had 3 watches. They had like the Hero watch and the one.
Worn.
Yeah, that went for a lot, but not $18 million.
No, $18 million.
You know the thing that was crazy about that auction? Of course, I was watching it because I have 13 of his cars.
Right.
So I was like, I want to know what this watch is going for. And in that auction, where they didn't really know what it was going to go for, a guy got right out of the gate with a $10 million bid. So they were like, all right, we got this watch. Do I hear $1 million? And someone just yelled $10 million.
10.
And everyone just stopped.
Yeah.
And went, and everyone's surprised. And they like looked around. And then the guy's like, do I have 11 million? And someone raised their paddle.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was an interesting strategy to shut it down at 10.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I've interviewed the guy who had the watch, and he said, he gave it to him when he was like, 19 or 21 or something. He wore it, Like, at first, if you gave me that watch, it'd be it'd be gone a million times. Yeah. No, I wouldn't even know where it was. I would have moved so many times.
It's in a box.
I would have traded it for burrito when I was drunk. Like a good burrito, but a burrito.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
This guy said he had it in his apartment, and his apartment got robbed.
No.
And the watch was left behind. I'm not, sitting on top of the bed, but I just mean like in a sock drawer or something. But he'd been robbed a few times and didn't take the watch.
Incredible.
It's crazy,
That's
right?
Totally nuts.
Then the guy told me a story that he found a second Rolex watch once when he was like walking through the park. I was like, what is it with you and Rolex?
Yeah, he's a magnet.
Where are all these Rolex watches coming from?
How lucky is that guy?
Yeah, Newman was like, he helped them for the summer build like a little lake cabin house or boathouse or something. And Newman was very that way. Probably had a couple Budweisers,
Very
and
generous
said
guy.
like at the end, he was like, hey kid, just pulled the watch off and went like, yeah, take that.
Yeah, because he used to be at Lime Rock, and I had a house in Connecticut very close to Lime Rock. I actually would have to drive by the park all the time.
Oh yeah, Lime Rock. Oh, by the way, I said girlfriend's boyfriend. I meant daughter's boyfriend.
Daughter's boyfriend.
Yes, yeah, I screwed that one up. But yeah, that's the guy.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, Lime Rock was his home track, and I do drive his cars pretty much whenever I can.
Do you just zip them around?
I do. I race them.
Yeah.
In vintage races.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
It is. But it feels good.
Yeah, of course it does.
And it's kind of like I'm not too spiritual, but like I have a car and the headrest is embroidered and it says PLN in red, white, and blue thread. And when I get in the car's got little pieces of tape and stuff on the steering wheel, like where he liked to put his hands and like little arrows on some of the gauges that he wanted to keep his eye on. And that was really his place,
Yeah.
and it probably the place where he was the most sort of at one with himself or something. Like that's where he wanted to be. He wanted to be in this cockpit, in this thing. And so to like sit in there and kind of just experience what he was experiencing.
No, that takes you to another place.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting.
Definitely takes you to another
It'll
place.
Say his name on the car and stuff like that, and just kind of feels like, yeah, I'm sitting where he was sitting. It's the same seat, same steering wheel, same stuff.
Can you imagine the conversations because I know that McQueen was an extremely competitive guy, but imagine them on the set of the Towering Inferno, because Newman was a serious guy. I mean, he really raced cars, and I know McQueen, raced bikes and stuff like that. And I know there was
McQueen raced. You can find Dawson, Adam Carolla, Laguna Seca, Newman, 2+2Z. Maybe I can show you that car or lap, but. McQueen was serious. He did a lot of off-road stuff, and he also raced Sebring. He did the 12 hours of Sebring.
He did do that
with a broken foot, by the way.
Oh wow!
And he was a pretty accomplished guy. And he went to Le Mans. He didn't race Le Mans, but he raced in Le Mans at 917 Porsche, and so he's pretty accomplished. Newman, ran the whole circuit, and he did Le Mans as a driver.
Yeah,
and he also won 4 driving championships, and
accumulated
points. And you have to go on tour?
Yeah, he was an accomplished, serious.
Yeah,
serious.
You have to.
Not a hobby.
You have to. Let's see, Trans Am qualifying lap crash at Laguna Seca ready. Is that what I said?
No, it looks like we got the.
Why do you have me in a Trans Am car?
I didn't put that up there.
Well,
I got a 300Z.
Why would it translate into me saying lap crash at Laguna Seca
No, you said
qualifying
lap
in a Trans Am race?
You said lap dance.
All right, Steve. But I always say this because how would that possibly be? I did crash a professional car there.
Not one of your Newman cars.
No, it was a modern professional.
Oh, okay.
Race. But this would be Newman, Carolla, Z. You may have to walk them through this, Dawson. 300 ZX.
From 2014?
2+2. Yeah, we'll show you one of his cars. Yeah.
Now, do you have any of his helmets or his suits or anything?
Yeah, I have his helmets and I have his suits.
Really?
And they got his DNA all over it, So if we ever want to go Jurassic Park with Newman,
it would be great to have him.
You got to go to me.
It'd be great to have him back.
Yeah, and the back of the helmets has his date of birth.
Yeah.
Has his blood type. And has his last tetanus shot.
No kidding.
Yeah, there's a date that says tet.
I met him when I was a little boy a couple times, and he was a really, really sweet man. He was.
Oh, I never met him.
Really, really cool and funny.
He seemed like he didn't suffer fools.
No.
But if he liked you, you're in good shape. But if he didn't.
Yeah, my dad became acquainted with him through my godfather, the screenwriter and novelist Terry Southern.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, here we go.
Listen, it's a fabricated 100% race car. It shoots fire out of the exhaust pipe. So that's Newman from his 88 2+2 Z car. And we'll just go around the track. But yeah, there's like 45 cars in this race. And Newman would be one of them.
Now, how many of his cars do you have in your collection? Or is that
13.
Top secret? Wow.
And most of them run pretty good. They grid you out there. You can turn it up, but the sound is great. Well, go to the start of the race, Dawson. That's where you got to go. All right, you can just run from there. Yeah, they bring you out, and then they bring you around.
That first corner into the straight, and you start
and then they drop the green flag.
You tell me if this Porsche blocks me or not.
Yeah, you think?
I don't think
yeah,
he saw
no
you.
kidding.
I think you were coming up quickly, and he
may be getting out of the way of
It
somebody.
was a block, but I don't think it was
wait
intentional.
a minute.
Yeah.
All he does is lose time. He pulls out in front of me, loses time, and then pulls back onto the track, right?
Wild. Now, do
Yeah,
you,
so now
do you,
it's
and,
kinda crazy.
The guys I
you and
swing
Spike,
shot
do you ever
past
call each other up and go,
me.
"Hey, I'll meet you on the 405 Sunday at noon. I got a new car. I want to."
Spike Ferguson?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, but I love Spike.
He's wild.
Yeah, this race is kind of nuts. People think you're doing like practice laps or something, but you're not.
No,
This is a race. You're in a race.
This is a real
and
race.
everyone's trying as hard as they can. Turn the sound off. I just want to hear this thing.
Anyway, I would like to think he had some plan other than blocking me.
He could have been drunk.
Either way, or got past him pretty quickly. But a few of the guys that I would have passed, I now had to pass now.
So now you're back in this group that we saw in the qualifying. There's the Camaro, the Gen 2
There's
Camaro.
Tullius's TR8, which I did pass at the start, except for I got blocked.
This is a podcast
we'll
I do, but
what year was
him.
this?
And look, it's not because I'm a
the
great driver.
car's in '88. I was doing this like 2014 or 15 or something.
That is wild.
It is kind of crazy, but you're sitting in his car.
Yeah.
And it runs.
You get moved by the spirit. I mean, how could you not, right? If you're in that vehicle, there's some sort of inexplicable possession that has to come over you, particularly because you know, obviously you are profoundly passionate, and this is something that you love. And so how could you not?
Well, it's definitely Newman when he was where he wanted to be in the moments he wanted to be in it. And I do think about that. Like that's where he wanted to be.
And that experience resonates, and it's the same for you, right? When you're doing that, you
don't think about anything else.
No, well, yeah, you better not.
No, all you think about is whatever you're doing next.
Yeah.
But there's if you go back like 20 or 30 seconds, I'll just let you hear it. It's kind of the sound.
I don't want to spin
if you
out
listen to the car. So it's like a whole,
and it's a beautiful day.
It's like a whole experience because of the sound and stuff flying around and stuff like that. You know, there's no windows. I mean, there's a windshield, but there's no side windows or anything. So yeah, it's very immersive.
Completely,
I guess is what I would say.
Completely.
And you're strapped in a six-way harness. You don't really think. You're not moving. You can't move.
No.
So it's weird being strapped in. You can't see. I mean, you can see, but you have to use mirrors. You can't move your head because your head's strapped in.
That's really.
It's kind of crazy. Definitely sweaty when you get out of the car.
Yeah.
And you definitely want a beer.
Yeah,
it's like the best beer you're ever going to have.
I made it.
It is a good beer.
That's.
All right, Titus. Let me give you a plug. BOSCH, Legacy, and last two episodes are in front of us, right? Coming out. And let's see. What about your any place we want to send people to find you? And by the way, BOSCH on Amazon, but I don't know, Twitter or whatever account, anything like that?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, and I do, Blue Sky is starting to kind of pop, but I'm still on Twitter and Instagram. I'm out there chatting with people and promoting stuff that I'm doing. This is the final season, just to be clear to everyone, because that people keep saying to me, is that the final season ? But it is the final season. Both of those final episodes come out on tomorrow. On Thursday, they drop.
So watch those because it's so good. Good to see you, Titus.
Great to see you. Thanks for having me, man.
Always a pleasure. Until next time, this is Sam Carolla for Titus Welliver and Dean Delray saying mahalo.